Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hellbent Holler Live. It's another Monday, and we are so happy you guys could join us. And let's go over in the chat and make sure that everybody can hear us before we get started. You guys know the drill. Hello, Ida Bustamante.
We got some people in here. We've got Judy Wheeler, the Deuster, Bryce Edwards, David Hunt, Ida, Central Florida Bigfoot, Judy Wheeler, Teresa Wilkins, Todd Brown, Stephen Taylor, James Barker, Dangerous Toys, Daryl Zerlin, David Kunst, Trista Myers, Jill Duck, hello Jill, Cryptid Castleberry, Sam Burton, Trista Myers, hello,
All
TCR
right, guys.
44, Stephanie Light, Strange Dominions podcast is in here. Hello. So, okay.
Tales from the Dark Side, you're in Lexington. How was Cryptid Con?
Yeah, did anybody go to Cryptid Con? Anybody got any cool Cryptid Con stories?
Yeah.
So.
We didn't go this year. We decided not to go. We've been working on a lot of our own stuff, and it's taking up all of our time right now. Is working on our current projects that we have and going out into the field and doing Hellbent Holler videos, basically.
Yeah, basically.
So we've been going out every week and just going out there and going through the woods and hiking and filming and catching some pretty interesting stuff. And then also prepping up for a couple of big expeditions we've got coming up. So our plates have been full.
Yes. Tales from the Dark Side said that CryptidCon was awesome. Joan said Farm and her did a podcast with Wisconsin CAPS. I'm not sure what that is. So.
That's cool, though.
Cool. Good deal. We'll check it out and listen to it.
Hope you guys had a really good time doing that. We always have a good time at CryptidCon when we go.
Yeah, this is the first year that we've missed.
In a couple of years.
In a few years. So.
Yep.
Cool.
We actually started going in 2017 or 2018.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that first year we went was just
amazing,
insane.
Yeah, so that was when it was held in Frankfort, Kentucky, and that was my first time in Frankfort, Kentucky, which is the capital of Kentucky, even though it's one of the smaller cities in Kentucky. But it's such a beautiful city, and the hotel they had it at was really cool, and we have so many stories about that first Cryptid Con. Yeah. It was just wild. It was kind of off the chain. So we'll never forget that. That was a lot of fun.
Last year was really cool. We made friends with Wild Bill off of Mountain Monsters.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a very surreal, bizarre evening. So.
Yeah, we were at the hotel bar with Wild Bill all night.
Yeah, so. I literally hung out. We hung out with him for 12 hours. It was insane. We had seen him earlier in the day. It just kind of a little gathering thing, and I thought I was going to get into a fist fight with him. I thought I was going to get into a fist fight with Wild Bill from Mountain Monsters.
Yeah,
and we just ended up broing it up somehow after that, man. And I don't care what you think about the show. We all know what the show is. The show's scripted. Who cares? It may not be your individual cup of tea, but the thing that I always come back to is that's inspiring a whole generation of kids, man.
Yeah.
I don't care what you think about the show. The moment you see Wild Bill with a room full of kids.
Oh, the kids, they
man.
Light
They're crawling on him. He's holding them up. I mean, everybody else got tired and went to bed. He didn't leave until the last kid was gone. Man.
Yeah.
And then just hung out with us after that. Just hell of a nice guy. So nothing but nice things to say about him.
Very, very nice people. Hey, Barton and Letitia.
Hey guys, and we're going to plug this a few times tonight, but if you are not a subscriber to Barton Unley's YouTube channel, I just put it in the chat. In Humanoids with Barton Unley, I know we probably got a lot of crossover, but there's a few people out there that maybe subscribe to us that don't subscribe to him. Barton's a huge influence to us and a really good friend.
Yeah.
He was somebody whose books were very, very influential on us before we ever met him, before we ever had a chance to speak with him. He was a huge influence on us, just his way of thinking and his way of approaching the different phenomena. Not to mention that his own personal encounter when he was a kid, Spotsville Monster is insane. it's crazy. It's like one of the most pivotal encounters probably in the history of this whole stuff.
And to hear him tell it in person is really, really riveting.
Yeah,
I'll say.
But it was just, we've had an opportunity to meet some people who kind of figure prominently in this field, and some meetings are better than others. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But Barton has just become like an instant friend of ours. So the Hellbent Holler and Barton, the Nunleys are going to have some cool stuff coming out together over the next year. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Looking forward to collaborating in a very special place to all of this.
Yeah. So if you're not, if you might think you follow him, but click on over, open up another window in your computer, pop over and give him a like. We're trying to get him up over 2,000 subscribers tonight. He's right there. And then let's keep getting him up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, he's like right on the cusp, huh?
Yeah, he's right on the cusp. So I'm gonna keep refreshing it, and hopefully we'll see him crank up to 2,000. So
Cryptidville, you're very prominent. You're prominent in our hearts. That's where it's important.
Exactly right. So
awesome. Cool, guys. All right. Oh, here we go.
Hey, and also too, while we're plugging our friend over at Strange Dominions podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jessi was actually on his show a while ago, right? Like a few months ago.
Yeah, a few months ago. It was
really interesting podcast. Extremely interesting.
Yeah, it's a completely different perspective on the supernatural and paranormal, because it comes from more of a cult bent. I'm sure he can tell you all about it, but he has such a fresh perspective and a different kind of perspective from what everybody else is doing. It's a really, really insightful and informative listen. So make sure you go to Strange Dominions podcast as well. James Barker. Oh, Jessi and Joe, what's your adult beverage of choice? Today is water.
Water.
Yeah. I don't think we could be drinking while we do live streams.
I couldn't be drinking while I do live streams. So
no, we would instantly get the band hammer immediately. We get spicy when we're completely sober doing things. I can't imagine if Joe got into the Rumple Mints and then the Rumple Monster made his appearance, and the censors would be down on us.
That'll be the best like 3 or 4 minutes you guys ever heard on YouTube before I got permanently banned, and probably have the police show up at the house.
Yeah,
Barton's over 2,000 guys, so that was a quick little thing. So let's keep hammering at it, and we're gonna share it throughout the evening. We're not really big on like self promotion, but we really want to try to grow our channel over the next year to try to introduce it to new people, just for no other reason than the fact that it opens us up to so many new stories, so many new accounts. I'm in the process. Jessi spent a night going through emails. I spent a night going through emails. We had some really wild stuff going.
Yeah.
We've had some really crazy accounts come over. People are even sending us audio, everything. We're thinking about actually trying to, at least a couple times a month, maybe share some like witness encounters with permission and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we've been thinking about doing this for a little while now, and I think it's time we kind of roll with that. I know that you guys really want videos out from us on a regular basis. When it comes to field investigation videos, where we actually go out into the woods and do field investigation videos, we have to go out there and do it. Then I also I have to parse through hundreds of hours of video and hundreds of hours of audio in order to produce that video.
And then if nothing happened, all we've got is a video of us walking through the woods, and there's enough of that out there on YouTube.
So, and we really don't put up videos where nothing happens, because we don't want to waste your time. That's why every video we put up is pretty wild.
For every one of those wild little videos we put up, I mean, there's several expeditions
peaceful walks through the woods
that have just us on camera going, nothing's going on out here. It's peaceful, we might be out there for like 2 nights, 3 nights, and not have anything happen at all. So
but we want to be able to give you guys some more content and kind of diversify our content a little. We've really been enjoying doing these live streams and really interacting with everybody and talking to everybody in a kind of casual hangout setup. So we're going to continue to be doing these live streams, but we are discussing doing a more of a narrative series where I tell witness encounters. So if you do have any kind of encounters you are comfortable with me sharing, you can always email those to us. Our email is down below. It's hellbentholler@gmail.com. And we don't have a title for that show yet, but I'll come up with something. but yeah, if you have encounters that you are comfortable with me sharing on the channel, you can always email them to us, and then we're going to start working on that, and hopefully produce a bit more of a different kind of thing, and add to our show list that we do. So Patricia Gambino Harrington, I hope you feel better. She's in her hospital bed tonight watching the show, so everybody send her a little prayer that she gets better.
Jim Sparker has some stories for us. Send them over, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like storyteller channels out there, and a lot of them seem to. I mean, a lot of them are really popular. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of them seem to kind of cover that same ground just over and over and over again, or they just dive into like just stuff that you're just, I don't know, that seems more like somebody wrote it on Reddit than like it really actually happened.
Right.
So we want to try to like do something that maybe kind of covers some of the wilder, like more historical accounts, stuff that maybe has been in like the public like view for a while, but it's not as well known. And then some of the things that people share with us, because we've got some crazy stories shared with us. And like I said, I think what we might do is try to like maybe reach back out to some of the people that have shared stories with us. And try to get
and just see if they're okay with us sharing
Yeah.
some of those, because some of them have been so wild. And then we do have stories that have accompanying photos and audio and all kinds of stuff. Somebody sent us a really nice breakdown of our audio from the last the last field investigation video we did.
Yes.
Somebody sent us some really good broke down audio of that, and they took out the noise and they kind of isolated a lot of the sounds. I think if he's okay with that, I might share that.
I need to get, I don't even want to mention his name yet because I don't know if he wants us.
Okay, that's fine.
But we'll, I'll double check to see if we can share that.
But I think I want to see if it's okay that we release that, because that really, I mean, I'm not an audio engineer, so I just present the audio as we have it. But he did a great job isolating that.
Well, it was great. I mean, I messed around with it on Audacity a little bit and kind of denoised it and kind of worked around. But what you run the risk of doing then is if somebody goes, oh, it's altered, you know, he's messed with it. It didn't sound as good. So we just released it raw. So it was good for somebody else to go in and kind of do some of that same cleanup. That wasn't us, because then we can't be accused of like, you know, altering the audio. A real quick aside, for those of you that were with us last week, we were getting some weird stuff on our instrumentation, and we've had some weird corresponding video and audio stuff that seems to go along with spikes on some of the equipment. It's been really quiet here this week.
Yeah.
Jessi went through and kind of cleansed the house after last week's podcast, just because so much weird stuff was going on. So it's been quiet, but we're still going to run some of the equipment.
I think I had one thing happen, and it was just like a shadow kind of out of the corner of my eye.
I've had nothing happen at all.
But nothing else. And that could have been just me, you know.
It seems like every time we do these podcasts, it kind of...
You are going to have 1,000 things clicking and ticking around me.
Yeah, they're going to click
My
and tick,
autism
man.
is going to just flip out here.
So...
Bigfoot Society. Bigfoot Society is stuck in Dallas. He's trying to get back to Des Moines. Yeah, James Barker, no crappy pastas. Nope, we're not going to do that. You know that if it's a Hellbent Holler, it's got its own Hellbent Holler flair. So it is definitely not going to be your run-of-the-mill story time that you get. We kind of want to do our own little thing with it, because I think it'd be kind of fun to share, and we just get so many. Have a Knife Day says, "What's a Hellbent Holler Thanksgiving look like?"
Working.
Working.
So
yeah, I got something to possibly cook if neither of us, if both of us are able to be together and be off. But I think we're both going to end up working on Thanksgiving.
This gets expensive. This is an expensive pursuit, and in order to do it right, I mean, we want to use instrumentation. We want to be able to like travel to these places. We want to be able to approach it with the seriousness that it's kind of due. In order to do that, you got to fund it a little bit. So we both work like
all the time.
All the time. So Strange Dominion had mentioned that he had a weird experience happen to him in the woods of Maryland. All we had was an audio recorder and a pendulum, and we got some pretty awesome results. Your friend and somebody we admire a great deal, Timothy Renner, will talk about that it seems like it seems like sometimes the phenomenon will allow you to record the audio associated with it, but not so much the video.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can have the audio, but the video, you know, it'll only give you like fleeting little glimpses. So it'd be interesting to see what you picked up out there. So
Cryptid Phil says, some of my research notes that I posted publicly found their way to Reddit somehow. Wish they would have gave me some credit or plugged my site. Yep. It's that is a common thing. That is, we know this all too well, that we will do something, or, you know, come up with something or go over something, and it'll be something completely novel, something that we, or even a style of the way we do something, and then we'll see like a bunch of other people
doing like the exact same thing,
or they're titling their things almost exactly what our titles are. So it's just, it's part of it, you know.
Imitation, flattery, you know how it goes. So hey, by the way, I don't know if he's going to be on this evening, but it is Martin Grove's birthday today. So
happy birthday,
Martin, buddy. So he might pop on. If not, if you guys are, he's got a huge social media kind of following nowadays. So pop over and give the man a happy birthday wish.
Bryce Edwards, can you accept Bryce Edwards says, Joe, can you accept my Facebook friend request, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm not on social media very much at all. I use social media to basically watch a couple of like regional, like cryptozoology, paranormal groups, just to see if there's any like activity going on. But it's just hard for me to
commit the time and the effort to being on social media and the brain power.
Yeah, it's just it just gets me. I mean, I'm all for people of varying levels of like enthusiasm getting involved in this stuff. And I'm definitely all for people with like a different approach getting involved in this stuff.
Yeah.
But come on, man. I mean, we were talking about Reddit, and I was just going, I've tried to get on Reddit before and like share stuff, and it just doesn't happen, man. Reddit's just, it's a vile pit of just and Facebook's a little bit better, but it's rough for me to get on like these groups just because people are so aggressive on there, man. You know, I mean, no matter what position you take or something like that, you're just going to get like attacked. And I don't have time to argue, man.
Reddit's like a dumpster fire you wouldn't even
Reddit is a giant dumpster fire. So
watch that like button, everybody. Thank you very much. War Criminal 7 says, I've been cleaning my house the last 2 trips back.
Yeah, you probably need to, because something's...
If you are not familiar with War Criminal 7, he's on our chats all the time here. He spends a lot of time in the LBL. And yeah, he's had a few strange things happen.
Hopefully one of these days he's going to be willing to come forward. Maybe not show his face. You know, maybe we could convince him to be on the show sometime and kind of come on anonymously. But he's had I
think it'd be cool when we go up if we met up with him.
Yeah. I'd like to do that. He's somebody who doesn't come with any preconceived notions, and he's kind of like letting the activity that he experiences kind of mold his opinions and beliefs on it, as opposed to trying to come in with very strong opinions and beliefs and then just kind of wedging everything to kind of go along with what he thinks. So it's going to be, it's interesting to watch his journey on there and see what all he see how he gets along it, but he's got to be safe because it's extremely, he's experiencing some extremely dangerous activity out there.
Bigfoot Society says, I got to chat with Martin someday. His book is incredible.
Yeah, yes. We're actually going to have Martin on the show sometime. It's just, I mean, we didn't even know we were going to do a show tonight until the last minute.
Joe didn't know if he was getting off of work.
Yeah, so it's unfortunately difficult for us to hardly commit to anything nowadays. Everything's just so on the fly. But, I mean, hopefully it's going to slow down. Hopefully it's going to slow down a little bit. So...
Stephanie Light says, I've seen him on a documentary, but definitely check out his book. Yeah, he was in Small Town Monsters, American Werewolves. He had a very, very compelling story that he told in that documentary. Seth Breedlove makes awesome documentaries, and they're just getting better and better the more they do it. But American Werewolves was great. It has several witness accounts of Dogman, werewolves, and Martin Grove's story is in there. But you lose a lot of the detail with that. It's very compelling to watch him tell the story,
but it had to be done within the constraints of the documentary.
It had to be done within the constraints of the documentary,
and it's a crazy account. I mean, I know that sometimes this show seems like the the Martin Grove show. But you know what? That's worst things you could be. But
yeah, if you haven't read his book, you can get it on Amazon. Look it up, Martin Groves. But it's a Beast Between the Rivers, and it's a good read. It's a short read, and he puts all the detail in there, all the kind of scary, nerve-wracking detail in there.
And like I remember when we were lucky enough to see like an advanced copy of it.
Yeah.
Seth Breedlove had sent us like an advanced link to check it out. So I'm messaging like Seth Breedlove on like Instagram while I'm watching it, just going, the special effects are like really good. Because that's one of it's not really a complaint, but it's just a harsh truth that the way that a lot of these like documentaries, no matter how well they're done, they kind of fail sometimes is in the recreation portion of it.
Yeah.
Just because budgetary constraints, it's hard to recreate some of this stuff and make it look believable unless you've got like a really big Hollywood budget. And Seth, obviously he's not like, just some YouTuber, he's a serious documentarian that he's got a budget, but still he did a phenomenal job with the money he had. I mean, phenomenal. So I'm messaging him about that. Your color looks good. Your music looks good. The special effects look good. And then I got to Martin's part and I'm just going, holy crap, dude, this guy's insane, and it was just the whole thing just kind of changed for me at that point, So anyway, if you haven't checked it out, like somebody said, it's on Tubi right now.
Yeah. I actually enjoy using Tubi. You have to watch ads, but they have a big variety of stuff. They have like a whole section of Italian horror films. So I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and American Werewolves 2, Skinwalkers is coming up. That's going to be very interesting to see. It's been interesting to see how the Dogman phenomenon and other like kind of associated things like the more wolf-like skinwalkers, stuff like that, has started to really kind of get more into not the mainstream, but the mainstream as far as like
it's certainly coming.
Yeah.
It's certainly coming up more, and it's like becoming part of the current zeitgeist. It's
definitely. I mean,
it's definitely a common topic of conversation. You have a lot of people who have been sort of in the field for a long time who have rejected the notions of the existence of upright canids, but now they are actually entertaining the idea and discussing it.
I think you're starting to see more serious looks at the phenomenon. You've got people that are seriously talking about it. You have people that are witnesses that are seriously talking about it, researchers that are seriously talking about it. People like Seth Breedlove that is bringing like a serious look to the subject as opposed to all just the creepypasta talk that has gone on for so long. And the infight, I mean, the whole subject's been kind of defined by the feuds that have taken place, and the crazier stories have kind of just come to front and center, and that's what most people just associate it with.
Yeah.
And now there's stuff like Joe Berger's story, Martin Groves' story, those have come out. And
all of this is kind of rolling out a little bit at a time. And this is also rolling out at the same time that we're in the same time frame that we got that story from Skinwalker Ranch, from Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. So you have all of this stuff. You have all of this evidence coming forward. And we've discussed that instance ad nauseum at this point, I know. But it just seems like that more people are more accepting of that concept, that could actually be a real thing, and you have more and more credible witnesses coming forward.
I think the envelope's been pushed for, let's just like ordinary, like mundane people who aren't like into this stuff as heavily as like probably every single person is that's watching us right now. I think that they have, and it's not all of them by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's a pretty good percentage of them have become more open to this stuff.
Yeah.
And then not to mention, more and more people are witnessing this stuff. I mean, more and more people are having their own experiences. And I think that's the one good thing about social media, as bad of a rap as it gets, is that in certain lights, because you see people that try to get on there and share like encounters with groups and they just get dogpiled, man.
Of course.
They just get like ripped up. But in certain groups, you're able to go on and share it and maybe not, and maybe kind of find some sympathetic ears. We had a guy that actually our friend who runs Cryptid Response was looking into it. We spoke to the gentleman one night. Our friend with Cryptid Response did a lot of like research into it, spoke to the guy a lot, but he went on a group because he thought that he went on a group basically saying a Wendigo is like, around my property and is trying to like, maybe it's killing my livestock. It's doing all of this stuff. And just every single like social media like expert just jumped on him going, well, the Wendigo is a northern phenomenon and you live in Kentucky and da 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 da. And the guy's not into like cryptid stuff at all.
That's so so frustrating.
He took what he saw and he looked online until he found the closest approximation of what he saw.
That's just like the people we talk to outside of the LBL. They refer to the Dogman as a werewolf. And you have people who are
their approximation.
That's the approximation. But you have people who are involved in this community, I guess, that gets so angry when you refer to a Dogman as a werewolf. And it's like the guy at the gas station doesn't know what a freaking Dogman is.
Or the little old lady who
he's not in your Facebook group where you guys discuss the regionalities of the upright canid.
The 4 or 5 types or whatever there is now at this point. But this guy had seen something like tall and skinny that he said had a skull face with like antlers. And so he looks online and he finds like a Wendigo. That was the closest thing that he could find to it. And he doesn't know. So he didn't know why he just got like so tore up on a group that's supposed to be open to this stuff.
Yeah, right.
And then our friend Cryptid Response talked to him and realized that whatever the guy was seeing, it was weird. It was wearing like either like a deer or an elk skull over its head with the attached like antlers broken off.
It wasn't like part of its physical self. It was a ornamental thing.
But this guy, the first time he saw it, he thought it had a skull for a face, and it was tall and it was very emaciated. It was moving very quickly. So nobody really took the time to get his story to kind of uncover that finer point later on. And, in a subsequent like sighting, everybody just like, they beat him. They beat him bad, man. It was bad. He was done. He was done. And he never went back on a social media group.
You have a lot of people that have very compelling stories, but they're afraid to share them with people because of that behavior, because they go on to these groups. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword to have cryptids or Dogman or, what have you, be such a prominent thing. And there actually be all these groups and all these people are aware of it and talking about it. It's a double-edged sword because you have more awareness of the subject, more people talking about it. But then you also have the human element, the terrible human element that wants to be an expert in everything. That's just going to...
We're in a subject.
Just turn that.
We're in a field that you can't really prove hardly anything. So when you can't prove anything, it's hard to prove somebody right or wrong. So usually it just comes down to whoever yells the loudest or portrays themselves as the expert the most. Because again, I guess that's where we differ from a lot of people because we don't really have any answers on anything. If we're expert in anything, it's maybe some of the research methodology, maybe it's some of the equipment that we use, maybe it's the way that we approach stuff. But if people will ask, like, what do you think it is? I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah. We went out to a spot near the Carolina, Georgia border in the mountains this past week. And we were getting a lot of weird, subtle activity. Nothing like what we've been getting in that one spot in North Georgia.
No.
But there was some weird stuff going on, but it was like very subtle. And I looked at Jessi and I was going, you know what? In that other spot, I don't know what's going on. Here, it seems like we're getting stereotypical like Sasquatch behavior. I think there literally might be just Sasquatch, and at least what we're seeing, only Sasquatch in this particular area. What a statement.
I think it might just only be Sasquatch.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm going to with it too, is that
after all of that we have experienced and all that we've actually captured on video and in audio where we've been going in North Georgia, only Sasquatch is kind of a comforting thing to me.
It was just, but we kind of got the feeling we were following an old mountain road and we were hearing what sounded like rock clacking. We were hearing like,
What was that?
I have no clue what that was.
The whole house just shook. Hey, can you go check?
All the equipment just started going off. Yeah.
Can you go check what that is?
Are you seeing that?
Hey, just go check.
I am.
Okay, our whole house just shook. I don't know what just happened. He's checking right now. Hopefully everything's okay. We live way back in the woods, so if something happens, we are way back here. So, James Barker, don't harsh my Dogman paradigm, right? Just be nice, people. That's what I love about you guys. You're humble. Yeah, we're humble. Yes. we just don't. I mean, we just try to be honest about everything. We just try to say that we don't know everything. We know what we've experienced. We know what witnesses have told us, what credible witnesses have told us. You can assess that. You can read all of the literature, but you can go out and experience it for yourself. But I feel like the more that we do that, the just more questions we have. I don't think we could ever get a grasp on exactly what is going on. Tales from the Narc Side says, I heard the metallic boom in North Georgia. Yeah, so we have a video called Breaks, Booms, and Howls where we catch it 3 times on the video. It's just this loud, Joe describes it as like a shipping container being picked up by a crane and then dropped. So it's very unsettling, and it kind of shakes, just like my whole house shook with whatever just happened outside. But it kind of just like shakes you down to your core, even though you're way out in the middle of nowhere. And it's just like you're hours and hours away from anything. We've actually looked around to see if there was any kind of quarry or this tri-field's going up and going crazy. We actually looked to see if there was any kind of quarry around or anything like that. But there's just nothing. It's absolutely nothing for like miles and miles and miles. What's up?
Nothing.
Did you feel the whole house shake?
You hear dogs going crazy in the distance right now. I wonder if that came through did that come through on the mics?
I have no idea.
You got like little weird EMF spikes when that happened. Of course, that might have just been the vibration of the.
It seriously felt like something like crashed into something right
It's always
out
like
here.
a freak show.
It's just every time we do a live stream.
It's always a freak show.
All right. What the Flock says, what do you think about living rocks or granite that swallows people as one of the possible causes of the missing 411?
I've never thought about that. I don't know. I don't know.
It's like never ending story of rock monsters.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is that a theory that's been bandied about, or is that like a personal theory of yours? We know that there's an association of granite with some of this stuff, like, granite fields, granite boulders,
in
large
my
deposits
mind,
of quartz.
In my mind,
that,
it was that those could be possible like portal areas, not that the rocks are alive and coming alive and swallowing people.
Yeah.
That's much scarier, I guess, than a portal area.
Earthquake. Yeah, I don't know, man. It was weird. Our house just shook.
It shook the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Dumpster Diving Dogman says, Hellbent Holler getting house slapped by disgruntled Sasquatch.
we've got cameras up everywhere.
Yeah,
of course,
we have cameras everywhere.
we put cameras up all around the house when we started getting weird stuff in the woods near us, but we've never got anything on camera here. We've had them go off by themselves several times, but
Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, Jessi, have you ever had rocks thrown at your house? I don't think we have. No. EMF just went off.
EMFs are starting to go off.
I don't know. We've not had rocks thrown at the house. We've not really had anything like physical like that.
No, I heard something smack the house a couple times. We heard something on the roof that night.
We did.
Yeah, we heard something like big on the roof that night, and we've seen stuff in the woods.
That was when we first moved here.
Yeah,
that was years.
But there was
ago.
something that ran across and of course, that especially at night, things sound bigger than they are, But I mean, it did. If that was a raccoon, that was a big, fast raccoon, man. So.
Trista Myers says, how has the activity in your house been the past
Quiet
week?
up until now.
Very quiet up until right now. Yeah. Flock, that Bigfoot Society says, Flock, that is an amazing hypothesis. Yeah, that's very unsettling. I've been very unsettled by the thought of aliens lately. Just really, really, I've been lying awake at night with an pretty rational fear of aliens lately. So,
well, I mean, for those of you that heard that audio that we captured a few weeks ago,
that didn't help.
That's where we're kind of going out with it now. It's because of that weird hum that we picked up like a couple of times. The growling was odd, but there's that weird clicking, and the way it happens, like the sound of it and the frequency of it, it doesn't sound like metal, or it sounds almost organic. And we kind of walked away from that. There's a reason why we went out to a different area this past week. It's because we're trying to evaluate how we want to approach that area. We do have a follow-up video where we went back and we found some other stuff too that could be innocent or it could be a bit disturbing.
Yeah.
So we've pulled back from that area for the time being. Just we're not leaving it alone, but we need to evaluate how we're going to go about approaching it going forward. Because we weren't expecting the humming noises and the clicking noises, and if that one growl did say our names, which I'm 100% certain it did. I don't know how you feel about it now.
I don't like that.
Yeah, so and that's weird too, because again, people get very egotistical doing this stuff. Oh, it's saying my name. It knows me. We don't expect that. We don't expect anything like that.
I don't want it to know
Yeah,
me.
but I mean, it's
not. I don't want it to know my name.
Yeah.
Michael Little says this is about the granite thing. The granite is a part of Icelandic history / mythology. Have to look into that.
Because I'm familiar with like the hidden folk and everything like that. And I'm familiar with...
Speaking of that, Strange Dominions podcast says, from the research I've done on the Fae, I believe at least some of the missing 411 cases are examples of people having bad interaction with the Fae folk.
Absolutely.
I'm reading Passport to Magonia right now, and I'm gripped with fear of being taken by aliens or Fae or demons or angels.
The same thing. But yeah, it's whatever you want to call them, whether you want to call them aliens or demons or Fae, it's the same phenomenon that people have been experiencing. I mean, the folklore is like our ancestors' guidebook on how to deal with these things. If you look at, we talk about it all the time, don't follow the lights into the woods. If you hear strange music, don't go towards it. Beware that kind of like slightly off traveler that you meet in the middle of nowhere. People have been telling stories about that. Just these rule books on how to deal with these things and how to approach them. And a lot of that phenomenon is still going on now. I mean, of course, we do try to follow the music into the woods, so we don't really listen to it, but it's good advice. So
what round for Fae folk?
You would want iron, red thread, rowan ash. So
Stacy 1111 RH222 says, I wonder what the heck that sound really was that shocked the house. That's wild. So you guys heard that?
Did you guys hear that at all? Because I didn't. I heard a little bit. I heard the pictures rattle. It could have been something. It could have been.
It sounded like just right here.
It could have been something mundane, but we don't get these weird mundane things like this unless we're trying to podcast.
Also, what is mundane that makes a noise like that? We live in the middle of the freaking woods.
Yeah.
Like we don't have like a dump truck going by or anything like that.
But the flock, you all remember that story on Missing 411 the Hunter, where the hunter disappeared next to a huge boulder and they heard a loud clap type of sound. It's a Tom Mezek case. That Tom Mezek case is weird, and that area where he disappeared in has a lot of other weird stuff going on to it. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I was in correspondence pretty regularly with a Bigfoot dedicated researcher from that area, and he spent a lot of time in that area, and he has nothing nice to say about it. And he is very cautious in how he approaches that area. He researches by himself. He doesn't have a partner to help him out, so he is always extremely cautious in how he approaches up that area. So Jen Palazzo, familiar with the paranormal and UAP activity going on at Skinwalker Ranch? Yeah, we don't. I don't watch the show, so I don't know what all the new people are experiencing. I've kind of got a thumbnail sketch of what they've got going on out there now, but yeah, everything from UAPs, physical entities,
Dino beavers,
upright wolves. I mean, everything out there. So, but it's not just, that's the thing, is that I think that there's more of those window areas than people really think of. Skinwalker Ranch is obviously somewhere that happens, like Mount Shasta. I mean, all the spots, like most of Kentucky,
Mesa Verde.
The spot we're in North Georgia, I think, is right up there.
Yeah, I definitely think where we go to in North Georgia is absolutely one of those window areas, because it's just the variety of phenomena that we experience is just insane. Like it's insane. And the amount of evidence that we capture.
Well, that's the thing, is that then we were in that area this past week, and like we're having like some low level weird stuff happen, but it was just kind of like, you know,
Yeah, nothing
it's
major.
it's kind of like it's numbed us to like, you know, minor stuff.
But of course, we avoided that area where we got that recording. So
yeah, we're
Stephanie Light. They say when you have fear surrounding extraterrestrials because you have a deep subconscious memory of an abduction. I don't think I was abducted. Jacques Vallée is weirding me out right now.
Yeah, the Jacques Vallée, and then the noises that we recorded. If it had just been that growling, I would have been leaning in one direction.
The
but
clicking,
the clicking, and that weird hum. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if this was like a relict hominid or just an undiscovered creature, I'm more comfortable with that than the idea of something extraterrestrial, or
I don't even think it's extraterrestrial.
Interdimensional.
So yeah, I mean
that knows our names, and then also seems like it gets aggressive with us. I don't think it wants us there.
No, it definitely doesn't want us there. If it had just wanted to stay hidden, it wouldn't have, whatever that was, wouldn't have made the noises that it made once we came back to get that recorded.
Yeah, when we're standing,
we wouldn't have known anything until we got home and reviewed the audio.
Yeah, we're standing right there, and it makes that noise.
Mm-hmm. Chill Duck says, every day I'm more convinced that all these cryptids and aliens are demonic entities. Skinwalker Ranch could be an actual portal to hell where all manner of demons come and go. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of gotten away from the flesh and blood hypothesis for a lot of stuff. We've gotten away from the extra-dimensional hypothesis for UAPs and UFOs. We've actually got a show coming up where we explore what they call the diabolical hypothesis, which is basically the demonic explanation for a lot of these UFO sightings. And it's interesting. We had somebody kind of getting a little upset that we were using Christian terminology like Nephilim and stuff like this for some of the activity. And I'm just like, okay, even if you yourself are not a Christian, you have to realize that there were people, just take this viewpoint. There were people of that time experiencing these things and writing it down, explaining it as best they could. And it's been handed down over the years. What's written in the Bible is it's mirrored in a lot of like different cultures, like holy works, and like different cultures, folklore and all that. So, yeah. So, I mean, like, what the Bible talks about, like the Nephilim, maybe like, the Norse were dealing with the Jotun, the giants that they were dealing with. So
Tilduck says that the government could have made an actual deal with the devil.
There's a train of thought that has happened. There, and we're gonna actually, we'll
get into all that.
Yeah, we're gonna actually do a dark dive, hopefully over the next week, an actual pre-recorded one where we discuss some aspects of that.
Stephanie Light says, "What book is this?" I'm talking about Jacques Vallée's Passport to Magonia. You can get it on Kindle, but it's a great read. It's going to make you very unsettled.
What Jacques Vallée does is he was the first one that, just like we were talking about before, about how a lot of the stuff that you experience right now that's associated with aliens, people were experiencing hundreds of years ago, and they were associating with like fae, the fae folk, fairies, for lack of a better term. Although that when you say fairy, it's not that Disney-fied, like Tinkerbell type thing. Fairy tales back in the day, as you all know, were much more bloodthirsty and cautionary. But Jacques Vallée was one of the first ones to really kind of look at this and go, wow, there's a lot of parallels between some of this, especially Western European folklore, and what modern abductees and UFO experiencers are reporting. It's just sometimes the descriptions have been changed a little bit to match, like, your contemporary viewpoint and your culture at that point. So he basically went through, and Magonia was basically a kingdom in the clouds that Europeans talked about. And they would occasionally see ships in the sky that supposedly came from Magonia. A lot of people actually considered it a real country because they would see these ships. And that's one of the things that's really interesting about the whole UFO thing, is that it always seems to be just beyond our technology. They were seeing people with actual sailing ships in the sky. Then you get into the 18th and 19th centuries, and they're seeing these fantastic, like almost like hot air balloons, but just much, much more advanced. Mm-hmm. And then you get into like, the 40s.
It evolves as we evolve.
Yeah, the 30s and 40s. You're seeing like mechanical craft, but they're more advanced. Then nowadays we're seeing basically things that just look like balls of light, amorphous balls of light that don't follow the laws of physics at all. But yeah, it's a really good read if you guys want to check it out. So,
Manu says, will you guys make a compilation of your best evidence?
we actually talked about doing that.
We did talk about that. That's why I put this up here. I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to put together like a really cool video that has all of our cool stuff on there. Jonestead Farm says, over the weekend, Narkside and I were instructed that Bigfoot was definitely an ape, as if our experience and thoughts on it were null and void. He didn't change our minds.
It's because it's impossible to change your minds, because that's the thing is that we don't have time to argue with like a lot of these people. But just one of these days, I'm just going to block out some time and just go at it, man, because
that's okay. And I probably know who you had an argument with.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who you had an argument with,
and I got to see David Polides and Ron Moorhead
tear that person
just
up.
tear him up. It was sad. It was a beating. It was an intellectual beating. It was so sad.
We take a pretty scientific approach to something that we are willing to admit is beyond the bounds of our understanding of science.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to understand it as best we can, and then nobody can accuse us of using bad science. And that's what you see a lot of times with people that are just so passionate about this. It's just an ape thing. They use bad science to prove it. Well, explain this to me then. Well, it's this. And they cherry pick stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there are cases where these things exhibit behavior that is very reminiscent of a great ape. What about all the other cases where it doesn't? Well, those must just be, they just throw it out. Tell me about why even your own people are reporting seeing glowing red eyes with no source of illumination. Well, and then they just start giving you bad science. You're trying to prove that you are scientifically sound using bad science. And that's just
what's crazy is that they would say, they actually express that people who believe in what we believe in and what we talk about, that we're crazy, we're out of our minds, we follow this strange pattern of thinking. However, they are following classic cult.
It's a cult.
They're displaying classic cult mentality, because it's no matter what new piece of evidence is presented to you, it's no.
At this point,
cult is correct.
At this point, I have more respect for somebody, and I find somebody more compelling who would look at me and go, none of this is going on. We're all suffering some sort of reinforced mass like psychosis. We're all feeding to each other's psychosis. None of this is happening. We're all low-level crazy. I would be willing to entertain that more than I would be willing to entertain that it's just a monkey running around the woods that we can't catch. Just a monkey, And then what's weird is that you even hear some of those people that are like ape proponents, and they'll talk about stuff, and I'll go, does this sound like a monkey to you? Oh, yes. Well, if it's a monkey unlike any other creature on planet Earth.
Yeah.
It's so singular that it might as well be alien. Okay. But yeah, no, we get the same thing. I mean, we've experienced the same thing, and that's how I started off. I mean, I started off, and I could stand here and tell you, there was a land bridge, and it came across the land bridge, and it did, and it's some sort of parallel evolution. There's always been more than one hominid species, on planet Earth at any given time. Why would now be any different? But it's not. I mean, it's at this point, every year we go by without a monkey in a cage, that percentage, that very small percentage that's true, gets smaller and smaller. And you can't definitely rule it out. We can't rule anything out. But it just, again, just if you're intellectually honest and you approach this as a whole and you go, all right, this story sounds like an ape. These 10 don't sound anything like an ape at all. The only thing it shares with an ape is that it's upright and it's hairy, So I feel for you, but I can imagine that's what happened, because Crypticon was pretty ape heavy this time,
It was ape heavy.
Very ape heavy. So
listen, if I want to know about a monkey, I'll ask you. This ain't no monkey, bro. Mm-hmm. This ain't no monkey.
One second. Todd Brown says he had interactions with Forest Fae in North Michigan, went on for years. Good neighbors. That's one of the euphemisms for them is the good neighbors, the quiet folk, the gray folk. It was considered bad luck to actually use the word fairy or fae. You would get their attention, and it would never be good attention. If one follows respectful behavior, they like tobacco and honey. That's another thing is that you used to, we discussed that as far as people who do gifting is that, are you gifting? Or are you making offerings to something that may have once been worshipped as basically a deity? But yeah, I mean, there's lots of folklore on that if you wanted the brownie that lived in your home to help out and make sure that you had healthy livestock and plentiful crops and that your house was in good repair, you'd leave out a saucer full of milk for it. And if you didn't, then your animals would start to die and things would start to break around the house and everything like that. So it's like Danegeld, basically.
Yeah.
You're offering the Danes money not to come raid you. So
David Kuntz says, hey, was the climbing gear still there? We haven't been back to that location in a while. But we might pop by there next time we're up there. It's such a huge forest.
Yeah.
And so we haven't gone back and checked that area in a long time. That's where we actually got those symbols behind our tent. And you saw an orange light up here.
That led us back to
that wailing, squealing siren sound. So it was that's such a strange area. We haven't been back there though. We've been having so much stuff happen at that other location.
Aussie Baza. And he's
Baza's
a researcher from Australia who does great work down there. Says he's had everything happen except the only things I've never been paralleled and I've never had rocks thrown at me. We've been paralleled a couple times, more than a couple times. Like we've had stuff land near us, and I mean, one time we saw a piece of bark come flying out of the tree line, literally just in an arc over and down. So that was definitely thrown. That did not fall from above. I mean, we've seen a couple things like that, but a lot of times you're not sure whether something's like falling out of the trees and you just happen to be near it and you're hearing. But like I said, a couple times we've seen stuff come out. I mean, we've never been hit by anything, we've never had anything even come close to us like that. So.
Strange Dominion says, if you want some interesting intersection between demons and Dogman, check out the Spirit Circuit from the Grimoire of Pop Honoris. That was a struggle session, wasn't it? He appears as a wolf and opens locks and removes barriers. That's pretty cool. Put that on our list.
Kaiju Ninja Dino Beavers are from hell. They saw Dino Beavers come out of a portal, wherever that portal went to.
On Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, hell could just be another dimension as far as we know, but it seemed like it came out of somewhere.
What the Flock says, if we're going to claim to be open to all possibilities, then all of us sharing a mass delusion must be considered. Yeah.
That makes more sense to me than literally. I mean, I would, if somebody would tell me that we're just all suffering a mass delusion and we're just misinterpreting things that happen, and I don't see how that's possible, but I think that's more possible than a big monkey running around. I just think that, and I mean, and you see evidence of that. You see so many people that start off just like flesh and blood. It's just an undiscovered ape, and then they kind of gravitate towards it's a relic hominid, not Neanderthal necessarily, but it's something. It's a hominid that shares the planet with us. That's just exceptionally lucky, and then they kind of gravitate into going. I don't know what is.
The Trifield just hit 32.5.
Yeah, this one just bashed up to
and then jumped straight down.
Yeah. So, but they it seems like people that are intellectually honest follow the same trajectory with this. I mean, that's why you see some people that have been involved with this for years just leave it because they go,
I can't deal with this.
I can't deal with this anymore, and it's not anything that's solvable. They wanted to get in and they wanted to find the monkey and prove to the world that it's a monkey. And then they get into it and they just go, this is beyond our ability to solve or to prove. And they just move on to something else, man.
Or they let it ruin their lives.
Or they have
completely.
Or they experience something that they decide that they don't want to trifle with this stuff anymore.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. If Bigfoot is an ape, this is Kaiju Ninja 1985. If Bigfoot is an ape, it's the smartest freaking ape ever. It's not in the same category as the gorilla, chimpanzee. It's really something totally on its own. Yeah. You can't have all these caveats. You can't say that this is some undiscovered ape. This is just some dumb monkey running through the woods, but it has all of these abilities.
Maybe it's a monkey from somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Maybe on wherever it comes from, it's a common, I don't know if I want to use the word animal or not, but it's a common creature. And it just comes through every once in a while.
Okay. So that still makes it, you know,
it's still not
unknown to our world.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not. I mean, trust me, I've heard all that. We've been beaten over the head with all the old arguments.
I mean, everything is from somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole thing of like, oh, the glowing eyes or bioluminescence, you know, that doesn't occur in primates, let alone really even mammals. I mean, there's some mammals that like glow under UV light, but as far as like actual like bioluminescence, like you experience with like certain deep water fish or like fireflies or anything like that, that's not something that happens with mammals. It just doesn't. But they'll trot that out because they cherry pick. What
would be the evolutionary explanation for that? Like, what would be the purpose of a mammal in the woods with like bioluminescent eyes?
Well, you have a sensory organ that is based off receiving photons. You have photon receptors,
but it's producing its own.
But it's also reducing it. So basically,
how are you supposed to receive?
You're fundamentally blind at that point. But it's an ape. It's just an ape. But that's the thing, is that they cherry pick the science, and then if you go, well, that's bad science. That's not how. I mean, it just, again, I don't know. It's just, but it's not an ape, man. There's just. I mean, I can't rule it out definitely, but I mean, who knows? Maybe there is a very small population of just apes in the Pacific Northwest or Canada, as big as some of the forests are here. There's no way that there'd be a breeding population in there. Mm-hmm. And that's gone undiscovered like this. It's just not. It's not. And you're seeing these reports. What about these reports of people that have them happen like in suburbs? You know, all these people are lying. I mean, all these people are lying.
Well, we've all decided that it's a mass delusion. So.
Mass delusion. And now we're on the delusional hypothesis.
Yeah, it's the delusion hypothesis. That's great. We're gonna close this up and
we're done.
We're gonna get a new hobby. Strange Dominion says, Jessi, I recommend that you and Joe use incense during your investigations to see if it provoked activity. It'd be a great way of testing out how physical or not the things you are dealing with are. That could actually tie in with a couple of experiments we've discussed before.
Yeah, we've got some stuff.
It's something to consider and something to think about. Ghetto Yeti's in the house. He came in late.
But James Barker, we appreciate the compliment, but as we're led by the evidence, not trying. Again, we set out with this, and I think, and I can see the appeal of why people are so tied into this ape thing, even though it doesn't make sense. Like Jessi said, it's cult might be a little strong, but there's a lot of like social reinforcement for that. They're in a part of a social group who they're all friends. They bro it up. They hang out. That's what the social network is built around, is this monkey in the woods. Mm-hmm. So they stand to lose all of that if they kind of veer off if they kind of go off the reservation as far as that goes.
It's that Max Planck quote about that science advances one funeral at a time. You know, maybe.
Yeah, people don't give up those ideas easily. So.
Even if they're presented with new information or new evidence, they have dedicated so much time, so much energy, so much of their lives to this hypothesis that if they admit now that they've been wrong all these years, have they wasted all these years of their lives?
Well, but even like that, even something that's not,
is their legacy in jeopardy at that point?
And that's a selfish approach, but maybe even some of them don't have a selfish approach, and maybe some of them mean well, but at the end of the day, good Lord, just look at like how our conversations go on these live streams. It would be so much easier to sit around and talk about a monkey in the woods. Okay. And let's look at its migration patterns, and it's here when the berries are ripe and everything like that. That is a tangible, that's something you can wrap your head around. Look at you need to see our reading lists, man. Like I said, everything from like European folklore to Jacques Vallée, I'm looking at a book about like bioelectricity right now and how bioelectricity has an effect on systems. Just it's all over the place, and sometimes it's hard to comprehend, and sometimes it gets very frustrating, and you want to walk away from it. You know what I'm saying? It in a way, it's so much easier if you could just, if you thought it's a monkey, it seems like that would bring you more satisfaction. There's not a lot of satisfaction in approaching this the way we do.
No, like we say all the time, it's like we just have more questions, it's very frustrating.
It's not linear. You're constantly branching off into other directions, and it's very frustrating. And I think that frustration level is unfortunately, that's a key element to the whole thing. I mean, we talk about the trickster phenomenon all the time, and I think that frustration level is built into it.
Yeah.
And I think that might be something that's insurmountable, and that's hard for people to comprehend. And if they do comprehend, why keep going on? You know, we go on because we think it's cool. No matter how freaked out it gets, and maybe this is not the best approach, but I think it's cool that we are a little freaked out by those hums and those clicks and everything like that.
Yeah, and we're gonna go back.
I mean, and I don't want to stop doing it, even though it's dangerous, because it'll always nag at me. What would have happened if we kept going with it?
Yeah.
And maybe nothing will happen. Maybe we'll never experience or catch another thing as long as we keep doing this. We won't know. You know what I'm saying?
Unless we try.
And it's cool. It's cool to do this stuff. I enjoy doing this stuff a great deal, as frustrating as it gets.
You're getting me fired up.
Getting you fired up, man. But it's frustrating, but it is frustrating a lot, man. I mean, I constantly will sit here and just go, there's no way I'm ever going to understand this. There's no way I can get enough of a grasp on all these different disciplines in order to be able to look at this stuff the way it needs to be looked at. That's why I'm so big on so many people from different backgrounds coming in and kind of sharing information, because it's impossible for one person to do.
Yeah, you mentioned.
And if you look at, let me finish this. If you look at these apers, a lot of it's about this one person. A lot of it's very self-aggrandizing. Like the person that lectured them at CryptidCon is to a certain extent into the celebrity aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And one person can prove it's an ape. If it's what we think it is, this interdimensional ancient hodgepodge of just whatever, no one person's going to solve this. It's going to take a group effort. It's going to take a community with a lot of different disciplines and a lot of different interests and a lot of different skill sets. It's not just that Indiana Jones wannabe adventurer out there, you know what I'm saying, with their plaster cast of a footprint going, oh, I've been, you know. So you have to, it's humbling to get involved in it with this aspect. So I can see why people don't want to do it. It's very humbling. It's very humbling to sit here and go, I have no clue what the hell's going on, you know, and we're nowhere near close to finding it out. So that's my rant.
For now.
For now, yeah.
Dumpster Diving Dogman, thank you for the $5.
Hey, thank you for that $5.
Show some love, my people. Keep them up and force a coffee run. I'm not having any coffee because I have to get up early and get to the gym.
TCR 44 years ago, I visited the Isle of Man off the coast of England. I've had family there. The residents of the Isle 100% believe in the fairy folk to this day. You see that in Iceland. We were talking about this earlier. In certain cultures, they will not build roads in certain areas because they don't want to disturb, you know, the silent folk or the hidden folk. That again, it's just weird because it's the word and the concept's been so Disneyfied. People hear fairies and they think childlike, you know, kind of like that Victorian idea of like little, you know, winged Tinkerbell type things. But if you get into it, it was basically, if you look at it, the folklore, it is basically this is overly simplified. These things come from another dimension and they come here and they take people, and they sometimes will breed with people, and they will sometimes use people to enhance their own genetic line. It's the same thing that people are witnessing with UFO abductions right now. It's very dark. It's all very dark and it's very disturbing, and it's not very easy to wrap your heads around. There's not a lot of answers to it. But there's still a lot of people to this day that embrace that stuff. They may not talk about it openly, but there's a lot of things that have been kind of relegated to the shelf of superstition at this point, which tie in directly with just what our ancestors believed that these creatures would do.
And then you'll have people who, like we've discussed, you know, you have people who claim to take a scientific approach to things that completely disregard folklore or history in general, because they want to compartmentalize it. They say, I am a person of science. I don't believe in such flights of fancy.
Yeah.
I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in fairies. I don't believe in all of this folklore, it's BS. It's completely separate from science. Science is just facts, figures, numbers. But the reality of the situation is nothing is black and white. There are just blurred lines between these things. And I think if you take such a hardcore approach one way or the other, you're never going to have the full picture.
No, you're never going to, because quite honestly, all of this stuff is not going to prove or explain anything to us. It's allowing us to maybe gather data to get a better idea of what's going on. A lot of this stuff seems like it's beyond science. I mean, look at how you and I approach it. I think I come at it from more of a technical aspect, and I try to explain what can be explained by science, realizing that not all of it can be explained by science. And then you come at it from a more, I don't know if you want to call it like a spiritual side or something like that, but and even that can't explain all of it. You know what I'm saying? So
Martin Groves is in the chat, by the way.
Martin Groves, happy birthday, buddy. So
got a lot of chat here. I'm going through.
We go through, try to catch up on.
Oh, Jill Duck. Thank you for
Thank you, Jill Duck.
Stick. I appreciate it. Thank you as always. We really appreciate it. While we're doing this here, make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you're still subscribed to Hellbent Holler.
Yeah.
I think we're off. I think we're out of the sin bin.
We'll see how it is tonight. We got hit hard by YouTube for that
Halloween live stream, not our live investigation on Devil's Night, but it was the live stream after we got hit because we said some bad things. So we were put in the sin bin, and now I think that we have been just gingerly released. The gate has been sort of cracked. So we will behave. Just make sure that you're still subscribed, because we did lose a few subscribers as a result of
that. We lost a bunch of subscribers because of that. So yeah, we lost literally. We just took an immediate harsh hit. So.
Let's make sure we're still subscribed, and make sure that you hit like on this video, because we appreciate you guys being on here, and all the likes and shares and subscribes and everything help get us in front of more eyeballs. And that's what we want to do. We want to share the gospel of the Hellbent Holler with other people.
Stephen Tichnell, can't buy that Bigfoot is anything but a physical being at this point. Why would a spiritual interdimensional entity leave footprints, hair, scat? Why couldn't an interdimensional, if it's a physical creature that's come from somewhere else? And as far as the spiritual one goes, I mean, I can't speak to a lot about that. But I mean, a lot of Native American lore talks about these things being not fully just flesh and blood, that there's a spiritual component to it. But I mean, an interdimensional creature, if it's physical in its plane of existence, comes through somehow and walks around, does whatever, affects the environment. And maybe that explains some of these people who have these sightings or these encounters where it just acts like a normal biological creature. Maybe it came through from somewhere, kind of hung out for a bit, and then went somewhere else. And that's why we don't find the bodies. That's why we don't catch breeding population. Maybe there is no breeding population.
This is obviously beyond our scope of understanding. And I think it's always going to be that way. I honestly don't think there's an end to this. I don't think there's an answer to this.
I don't want to say there's not an end to it, because you don't know. You won't know until you're at the end. But I don't think that we're anywhere near close to solving anything.
No.
But I think that we are getting, I think there's more people looking at this in varying degrees of, I guess not varying degrees, but just different ways. They're looking at this in different ways. And there is starting to be some kind of cross, I don't know what you want to say, cross-cultural discussion. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I have no problem with somebody who, I'm friends with people that are just convinced that it's an ape, but they don't immediately go on the attack when an opposing hypothesis is brought up. They just, and you know what? I'm sure that there's people that are very into the interdimensional and everything like that are very bombastic and heavy-handed with it. And that's not right either. Who knows? Maybe, just maybe we're wrong and it's an ape. I can't say for sure it's not. I'm just saying that I haven't seen nobody has made that argument to me, that successfully
Yeah.
that it's an ape. It's almost like they say it's an ape because it has to be an ape. Because if it's not an ape,
that's scary.
That's scary, and then they have to adjust their worldview to other stuff, you know.
And then they can't don the label of I am a person
of science.
Yeah. You know, if you claim to believe in anything of a supernatural bent, it's like you lose credibility as somebody who believes in I believe in the science. You know what I'm saying? The science. And like if you dare to step out of that preconceived notion or that set notion or that script that is written, then you lose all credibility that you may have had.
And the science is never settled as far as stuff like this goes, because I mean, this is not arithmetic, you know.
No.
I mean, look at how the envelope gets pushed on any sort of anything with like an anthropological bend. You know what I'm saying? You know, oh well, people modern anatomically, you know, similar humans only existed this far back, and then it just takes one bone being found in one cave.
You mean a Denisovian tooth being found is what it is. To push that
back like 50, 60, 70,000 years.
Or a finger bone, you know.
So the science is like never settled on stuff like that. It evolves. And that's the thing is that and like I said, I mean, I guess I would maybe accept the ape theory a bit better if the delivery was not always, but wasn't so often heavy-handed, insulting, and just, you know, there's no room for anything else other than your bad science about why it has to be. Because here's the deal. If you want to take just a flat out scientific approach with no other elements into it at all, then why does pretty much every established scientist say that this whole topic is crazy? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now there's more and more people, but again, the people, you're seeing like a real growth with established scientists saying that there's something here. And they're not talking about physical craft coming from other planets, and they're not talking about monkeys in the woods. They're taking like an interdimensional, you know, approach to this stuff. You know what I'm saying? That this stuff is not just little green men climbing on a rocket and blasting off here. And it's not, again, the Skinwalker Ranch guys. They talk openly about upright wolves. They don't talk about Bigfoot that much.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When they do, they kind of refer back to Native American beliefs from the area, that it's like a spiritual creature. So if anything, the science is leading. I mean, if you're going to follow that science,
what did that just peak out at?
It just maxed out.
It just maxed out. Yes, it did.
If you're going to follow that science,
20.4,
then you've got to follow the science, man. You know, you can't follow the science that you want to follow and leave everything else. So.
Another thing to think of is if you say you want to wear the science badge, that's what we're going to call it, and you have this desperation to be accepted by the scientific community at large. I have a news flash for you.
It's not going to it's going to happen. It's going to happen incrementally. You know what I'm saying? Look at the people that are associated with Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
Colm Keller and all that. These are established, extremely well regarded. But here's the deal. Even they get a lot of pushback. So it's happening incrementally. But again, there's a reason why you're not seeing like the Stanton Friedman types, you know what I'm saying? The people that are just tied into, it's a nuts and bolts craft coming from somewhere else. You're getting into like this more like esoteric kind of like out there type of theories that seem to be the people going, that's all it could be, because it's certainly not craft. So I don't know. Like I said, I think you're seeing the envelope, you know, as much as it's frustrating as it is sometimes. I think the popular opinion's changing on it. So.
Yeah. Take Two Wheels says, have you guys heard of the Cherokee legend of the little people in North Georgia? We've talked about this before and related it possibly to the Moon-Eyed people as well. That's also a North Georgia Cherokee legend. The Cherokee Nation reached into North Carolina, North Georgia, down to South Carolina, all the way through South Carolina. In North Carolina, at the Western Carolina University, there was, when they were building the university or doing some renos over there, they actually claimed to have found some tunnels under there and found the bones of what would be considered Cherokee little people. Mary Joyce actually chronicles this in one of her books, and she talks a lot about this. She's the editor over at Skyships over Cashiers. She talks about the Cherokee little people a lot. It's an interesting legend, and they seem to relate similarly to the Fae, and a lot of their behavior, and if you insult them, or if you displease them in any kind of way, then they punish you for it. So that relates right to the Fae. So it's not to say that, it's just so interesting to see that there's all these independent lines of folklore that seem to coincide and seem to be so congruent in so many ways.
There's stories of like little people in the woods in Ireland, Hawaii, all up and down through North America, South America. Pretty much every culture has got, along with these big hairy wild men, they have associated stories of like little people at this point. But I think that what's happened is because it's more comical. And when you think of little people, you think of comical things. You think of the little leprechaun with the cereal, you think of the Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, you think of the Keebler elves, you think of stuff like that. It's been made, it's become more of a humorous topic.
Yeah.
But I mean, we found small little footprints up there. And quite honestly, when you get right down to it, if you want to just go from like a scientific approach, it's more likely that there is a small race of intelligent, very diminutive sized creatures living up there than 8 foot tall mountain giants.
Yeah, because if you have like a diminutive humanoid,
you could go underground.
You go underground. There's
like
cave systems everywhere up through there. Yeah, we found that first print in the Mountain Bridge Wilderness area. That is a very rough, wild place, and that's near Caesar's Head and Ravencliff Falls, and that's on the South Carolina North Carolina border up there. But that is a very, very rugged and wild place that there's areas that people have never been to up there.
And it's all riddled with caves.
Yeah, and it is
old mines.
Yep, there's lots of old mines up through there.
And yeah, it is conceivable that very large creatures could live underground and come out at will, but it's a lot more conceivable that very small creatures are doing that.
Oh, for sure.
Just almost on every single like just data point that you could think of, it would make sense more for a small creature like that to actually live and thrive and stay hidden. Our friend Tracker's in here. Hello, Tracker. How are you? I've got a bunch of emails to go through from you. So,
hello to Tracker and his wife that they are listening tonight. Owen Thomas was asking, why did they lose subs? You guys are awesome.
We took a big, like 150 sub hit, within the space of just like a half hour.
This was shortly after our Halloween live stream. We had to demonetize that one because we got slapped for it. We just mentioned things we shouldn't mention, so that is why. What?
Dead End Yard Haunt. Okay, I'm here. We can start. So.
Well, thank God you're here, Dead End Yard Haunt. We've been waiting around for hours. Lane County's in the house.
Hey, Lane County. So, TCR, I can't buy that these things are anything but at least partially supernatural. But again, what we consider supernatural, I mean, if you look at everything ties in, everything's just so connected nowadays. I mean, look at UAPs. They behave in ways that don't seem to correspond to how we understand physics until you get into some more of the weirder type of physics, and they go, yeah, it's possible, but it's something that's so beyond us. Maybe the stuff that we think is supernatural does correspond with reality. It's just that reality is a lot weirder than what we really are open to admitting at this point, man. So, because when you look at one of the things that always interests me is that people, they start talking about like quantum mechanics and quantum theory and how things behave at a quantum level. It's magic, basically. But then they stand there and go, yeah, but this only happens on the quantum level. And I'm going, are you sure about that? Because some of the stuff that seems to be happening on the non-quantum level kind of matches up with that. Oh, no, it's impossible.
Yeah, you're awful confident about something that is still an emerging
exactly,
thing.
Science. So,
that's still an emerging science, and you're awful confident about how it behaves or does not behave.
And I think that's the thing, is that it's the confidence level. I think that, again, it's so self-aggrandizing that that takes over in this field. And I guess it's because a lot of people really enjoy this field, and they enjoy people that take the time to investigate it. But it's that we try not to take any of this stuff like personally, because it's we don't have answers for anybody. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we don't have that smoking gun at this point. We may never have it. But a lot of it becomes like a pride issue with them. You know what I'm saying? It becomes a pride. It's more important for you to be viewed as an expert and to be viewed as part of like some little secret hidden clique than it is to like be open-minded about stuff. So
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate.
Dolores says, did anyone think there was an earthquake that shook the house? It was very centralized, whatever it was, and we've not heard it again. So I do not know, Dolores. I do not know. Cryptid response. That is.
That's that going off, yes.
Okay. Whoops. All right.
Longer we
Jen
stream.
Palazzo says, Joe and Jessi, Dr. Melba Ketchum, Sasquatch DNA studies found human female DNA on the maternal side. Jen mentioned this earlier about them finding human DNA during the DNA study. I mean, you are looking at the possibility of a hybrid, you know, or, you know, if you think about it in terms that Sasquatch and what we refer to as aliens or extraterrestrials, if they are related in some kind of way, it seems like a lot of times these abductions occur on certain people. And we've had this discussion before here with the Hellbenders about certain people are prone to abduction or experiences. And it could be the secret is in the DNA. And a lot of these abduction scenarios, people experience taking of DNA. It seems that when they are abducted, they're subject to tests and a collection of DNA, primarily reproduction elements of DNA.
Well, I mean, that goes back through some of the spicier folklore. I mean, everything from elves under the hill taking like fair maidens and fair young men to come down and
to diversify
because their stock was weak, to babies being abducted, you know, the supernatural child abduction phenomenon,
or taking a nursing mother and taking her and then having her feed the fairy children,
succubus, incubus, everything like that. I mean, and then nowadays it's alien hybrids and, you know, people having genetic material harvested from them. So it's basically the same thing. It just presents itself a little differently. Kaiju Ninja, have you ever cast any footprints? Do you have a collection? We've casted one footprint successfully. We tried a couple more, but it's just something that we have to hike that material, and that stuff's heavy.
Yeah.
And it means we can't carry a lot of the other stuff with us. B, you got to hike it out now without breaking it, which you can do. I mean, we got that one out without breaking it. But the other thing too is there's so many people out there casting prints. So we try to do, we don't really focus our efforts on that. We carry like casting material in the car, and we might run across that one print one day that's worth us like hiking back and getting it and casting it. But I mean, at this point, there's so many cast prints out there. You know what I'm saying? There's other people doing it and doing it better than we ever could. So we try to focus on something maybe where we can be a little bit more unique in our approach.
Yeah, we're not great at casting prints. Again, here's us being humble.
Yeah.
We're not good at casting prints. We had again, we have to hike everything in. So casting material is heavy. It's so heavy. It's a bag of earthen material, you know. It's very heavy. So we'd have to hike all of that in with us all the time, assuming that we would maybe find a footprint.
Yeah.
And if we don't, we've just hiked 10 miles with 50 pounds of crap on our back that we didn't even use. And we had to leave instrumentation back in the car because we had to haul in all of this.
We carried 10 pounds with us that time, and it wasn't enough to fill that one track. We just had that little soup, that milky soup at the bottom of it. So
sad.
Yeah.
But so funny.
Stephanie Light she wonders what the relationship is with Sasquatch and the Fae. If you look at, especially not even just European like folklore, but there's Asian equivalents to it. But Fae is just not just the pointy-eared little diaphanous winged like little, you know, sprites or whatever. There were giants, ogres, trolls, things that have very similar physical description of what we consider modern Sasquatch. When you look at the way that Sasquatch behaves in a certain, it's basically another type of fairy. Wood knocks. It's mischievous in certain areas. It messes with livestock. It takes food that you have stored outside, and an interest in children. There's a lot of parallels between just a North American Sasquatch, how we consider it, and old world fairy activity. There's a lot of parallels. And if you're interested in that, check out Timothy Renner's in Joshua Cutchin's book, Where the Footprints End. They do a great job of drawing some parallels between that.
There's a South American like dwarf.
The Dueo, got weird stuff happening because that went off right as something happened to you. What's wrong?
I felt something like touch my shoulder. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
All right, set that up and see if
we get
on it. So,
I thought that was you.
No, it's not me.
Okay.
Be cool if we reviewed your hair moves or something like that. So, are y'all familiar with folklore about Wampus cats from Kristen Castleberry? Yeah, there's a guy that Jessi knows actually north of us where the Wampus cat legend or stories, whatever you want to call it.
It's in it's in like near Cowpens, South Carolina, near the Cowpens battlefield. I think that's Cherokee County, South Carolina.
Yeah.
But they've lost some livestock over there.
They've lost livestock. They've lost calves, and they've had like full-grown cattle like attacked. And here's the deal: people were going, it's a mountain lion. First, they thought it was coyotes when it was just the calves, and then when the full-grown cattle got attacked, they're like, it's a mountain lion. We've got a mountain lion here. Well, they set out like a lot of like wolf traps around there to try to catch it.
Mm-hmm.
Something got caught in one of the wolf traps and tore it up.
Tore its way out.
Not
out of a wolf trap.
Ripping its leg out and leaving part of it, like literally bent and broke parts of the wolf trap to get out. It freaked them all out.
Yeah.
So we've actually talked to him about going up there. Right now, it's kind of quiet, but when the activity starts back up again, if it starts back up again, we want to jet up and kind of like look at it. So, Night Owl High Strangeness, good to see you, my friend. So, Richard Tower, first time coming in. Glad you could join us tonight. These are usually pretty free flowing, so if you got any questions or comments, pop in and we try to go through and get them. So,
what I was saying before, I felt like something touched my shoulder, which kind of has me freaked out right now. In South America, there's these legends of dwarves that are very, very hairy. They're like dark and very, very hairy.
I think they're called the Dueo or something like that.
No. That's like a
that's
dog.
That's the wolf thing. So
it starts with a K. It's like a 3-letter. I don't know. You'll find it. But anyway, they're described almost as like little mini Sasquatch in a way.
Duendes. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, duendes. Yeah, not Dueo, duendes.
Duendes, but there's another term for them. But anyway, they're almost described, they're very, very hairy, and they're almost described as like mini Sasquatch in a way.
What's up, Racer?
David Kuntz says somebody's trying to add their 2 cents with their tri-field. Yeah. Something's going on here. I don't know what it is. I don't know if we all have this weird collective unconscious that feeds into something.
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, because we've got 100 and some odd people all across the country right now, all basically discussing this together through an electronic medium.
Yeah. And then it's a like it all comes together and feeds it, gives it power.
That's weird, man.
It's almost like a tulpa effect in a way, or sometimes when you talk about tulpas, I feel like that people think about it's like something completely fake that is brought into reality. But it's sort of like a tulpa effect, I guess, would what you'd call it, to where it's something that would feed off of that energy and that thought and that power that we give to it.
Not all cost strangers. Try using spray foam for casting prints. That's a good idea. Does it pick up like the details and all of that as well? I guess it would. Spray foam would be a lot easier to carry, a lot easier to cure.
Yes.
Would work so much better on a lot of. It's pretty cool. I might reach out to you.
That's a good idea.
Might reach out to you one-on-one, buddy, and get a little bit more.
Of course, the day that a can of spray foam
bursts into our backpacks,
Mystery Ranch backpack is the day that I'll come find you.
Yeah. So
Nighthawk High Strangeness. War Criminals 7. Oh,
I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
Just Todd Brown has had some really interesting stuff about the Good Neighbors, where he's at. They've warned him out of the woods when danger was about. Yeah, there are stories.
There's positive and negative interactions with what would be considered the Fae folk.
I think that all of it's just so alien, though, and the possibility of going astray with them is just so. It's such a high possibility.
And you can't apply our temperament. You can't apply human temperament or human morality to something that's not human.
Yeah, go ahead and hit what you were hitting. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. It's fine. War Criminal 7 says, Jessi and Joe, what about the succubus that breeds a human female and makes a creature /demon? Yeah, there's lots of stories about that going back through time.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's such a weird thing that you would think that people that were quote unquote more primitive than we are focus on. They constantly focus on these things come and they'll take your children. These things and they will come and get your genetic, and they're a bit more graphic, obviously, than genetic material, but will do this in order to breed with themselves. And then the resulting thing is something is like aggressive and large as like a Nephilim, or, you know, like fairy changelings, anything like that, alien hybrids. It just seems like such a weird reoccurring thing that's such a specific thing to just come across so many cultures and across so many like centuries. And
Yes.
all that, so
Matthew Delph says, are you still in Georgia? I do a lot of research in North Georgia. We are located in South Carolina, but we travel to North Georgia a lot. We have a research area that we go out to all the time, and that's where a lot of our videos are actually filmed because we have a very active area out there. North Georgia is a very, very strange place, very active and charged area.
It is. It's weird. It's you hear about certain sections around that Bigfoot museum that opened up. And what's odd is that apparently Sasquatch sightings and activity increased after that museum opened up. And now you could say, well, you know, it's on everybody's, it's to the forefront of everybody's minds now that the museum is there. But you don't have to have Sasquatch on the forefront of your mind to see an 8-foot tall, dark hairy creature run across the road and know it's a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
The other train of thought is that people are actively thinking about it more, so that mental energy or whatever you want to say has increased the phenomenon. That doesn't sound like an ape. So
yeah. Dolores asked Joe and Jessi, y'all still having events there at your home? I literally, I don't know if you guys saw me a few minutes ago. I'm sitting here and I kind of freaked out a little bit. I'm sitting here and I know I play with my hair a lot because my hair's so long and in my way. I try to knock it out of my way. But I was sitting here and I think I pushed my hair back here, and all of a sudden I felt like something just grabbed my shoulder, and I thought it was Joe doing this, but it was like pressure, like right on my shoulder, and the EMF over here started going crazy. Yeah. The tri-field didn't, but it was this one. That's
That's the lower frequency EMF. So that was
something on the lower frequency
below 350.
Triggered that, but it was weird. It felt like, and that's why I kind of flipped out a little bit. I was like, okay, something is touching me.
Dead End Yard Hunt. If somebody had a Dogman body, do you think they would be able to go public, or would the government pull out all stops to cover it up?
Cover up.
They'd cover it up, and they'd cover it up so easily, and they would cover it up to the point where it would never see the light of day if they didn't want it to. Not only would any photos you have of it disappear, any physical evidence you had would disappear. And I know that people kind of use that government cover-up thing to kind of go, oh, well, that's just a lazy excuse. People use that to explain away why there's no physical stuff of something that doesn't exist. It's why wouldn't they cover it up? It would be so easy. You're trying to convince Middle America, you know, that you have the body of an upright dog, and we've used kind of a similar parallel story with like Sasquatch before. But let's say you shoot one of these things and you've got the body, and all your buddies come over and you all take photos of it, and the local news comes over and they run a story and they put footage of it out there, blah, blah, blah. And then some dudes in black vans show up, drag a very large dead German Shepherd out, or let's put it like this, a dead gray wolf out, and lay it there and go, this guy's mistaken. He's killed a gray wolf. Now we're not going to charge him with anything, but we could. You know? But obviously this was a case of just hysteria. These dumb rednecks, they shot a wolf thinking it was this, It'd be very easy to, and all people would be talking about the next day is not, hey, did you hear about that guy that shot that werewolf? It'd be like, did you hear about those dumb hillbillies?
Bill the idiot.
Thought they shot a werewolf and they just killed a wolf. Man, those guys belong in jail. It'd be very easy to cover it up. Very easy. So.
Kaiju Ninja 1985 says, did you pick up any EVPs last time? Maybe try it again. We didn't pick up really anything out of the ordinary, other than our EMF readings. And then we keep having the weird stuff happen. I swear to you, it's been really nice and quiet here.
Yeah, it's
this
been
week.
quiet. So, yeah. Richard Tower says, happy listening tonight. Lives in a very rural part of Canada. No experiences myself, but many friends who've had visual encounters, even Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
And then he follows up with, to be honest, I'm pretty happy I haven't seen one myself. I'm a wildlife photographer and spend lots of time in remote woods alone. I think if I encountered one of these, it would ruin that for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably
I could
would,
see
man.
that. Because you're going out there alone, you're like, I'm fine. It's just the woods. Everything's cool. And then they would change your entire paradigm to see something that should not exist.
I mean,
so,
I was thinking about this when we were on that road, like over the weekend. We're hiking this old logging road because we really spent a lot of time on old logging roads, roads to old settlements that no longer have anybody living in them. And we were hiking along and we'd heard those, like what sounded like the stones cracking up on the ridgeline above us. And I'm walking and I'm going, God, I don't really feel any danger. I feel like we're not wanted here. When I'm walking and I keep looking and I was like going, gosh, I wonder what it's like to just be able to hike through the woods and not constantly be looking over your shoulder and not just, not to have that kind of knowledge that there's something else out there. You know what I'm saying? And I guess it's handy that you need to be aware that there's stuff out there.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's dangerous. But I was just going, gosh, what it would be like to just take a relaxing walk in the woods sometimes nowadays, as opposed to.
I have a friend that sets up a hammock, goes in the woods by herself, sets up a hammock and takes naps.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. That's insane behavior to me. After everything we know, everything we've seen, it's just insane behavior to me. What the flock wants to know. I've literally never heard the term dog woman.
Yeah, and
is there a dog woman?
It's somebody had actually asked us that a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going, it's weird because you hear obviously Patty, Patterson Gimlin film, she was a female. You don't hear that many stories about female Sasquatch. You do hear stories about juvenile Sasquatch.
Yeah.
With Dogman, you don't really hear much about female upright canids. You do occasionally come across stories about young.
Oh my God, wouldn't they have like?
Yes, they would.
They would have like a bunch of nip.
Yeah, it would be very physically apparent that these were females.
Oh.
It would be more physically apparent that these were females, even more so than
that's a disturbing visual. I never thought about that. But you never hear about it.
No. You never hear about it. You do hear. Well, here's the deal. You hear about smaller dogmen, and people assume that they're juveniles.
Yeah.
But if they're juveniles, then where are the females at? Again, there would be no mistaking that it was a female dog, especially if she had born young.
Yeah.
But where are those stories at? I'm sure there's some out there, but where are those recurring, constantly, people reporting the same thing over and over again? You don't hear about it. Now watch, we've talked about it. Somebody will contact us with a dog woman story. So.
They're going to talk about the 8 nipples, the 8 dog woman
nipples. Yeah.
Nipples. And yes, my God. I have to contact Jonathan Dodd. He's going to draw us a dog woman.
No, he's not. So
no. I have to.
Maho. Sorry, I'm butchering that.
Mojo.
There you go.
See, I got that one.
What was your spookiest encounter? One that you would not want to live again? Panther Town, but I'm going to be honest with you. The thing in North Georgia recently with the sounds was extremely
terrifying.
Well, it was weird at the time, but when we got back and heard the stuff, and again, I can't say this enough. I'm not necessarily shilling for you to watch that video, but watch that video and listen to those sounds with headphones on. And you might be able to come up with one natural occurrence to explain part of those things. You can't come up with anything to explain all of it. It's just in the hum and the clacking, that weird clicking that sounds almost biological, but it kind of sounds mechanical, is very disturbing to us for a lot of reasons, because at that point, it's kind of striking home that we have no clue what we're dealing with. We have no clue how to approach it. We have no clue how to approach it safely. So yeah, that's causing us. There's a reason why we went to a different area this past week, is because we're trying to regroup as far as how to approach that part of North Georgia. So.
I do want to say that the chat is blowing up with the dog woman nipples and the.
Did you expect anything different? So
Just Curious says, I've wondered if females have multiple teats. Okay, so we know what the title of the live stream is for tonight.
Joe, it's just Spearfinger following you. Yeah, we actually want to go into some of the traditional areas where the Spearfinger lore is the strongest at.
Mm-hmm.
And there's particular times of the year that the Native Americans in this area thought that activity happened. We want to try to go into those areas. And they even talk about not to do certain things because you'll attract Spearfinger. We want to get up in those areas at that time of year and do those things.
That's going to be such a huge, that's going to be like a huge undertaking of a trip. Here's why. We have to rent a boat.
Yeah.
We have to rent a boat. Well, we're not going to pilot it. Somebody's going to take us and drop us off at this location that is so remote. We have to take a boat to get to it across a lake. Because if you hike to it, it'll take many, many days to hike to it. And we have so much equipment.
You can't even hike to it. We've learned that.
Yeah, you can't hike to it. Where we're going,
physically get
you
there.
have to take the boat across this lake and get there. We're going to take all this equipment, and they're going to leave us there for days.
Yeah, for like a few days.
And then they're going to come pick us up at an agreed upon time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to do that next fall.
Yeah.
But that's going to be absolutely bonkers. That's going to be a bonkers investigation. That's going to be beyond anything we've ever done before.
The Dooster with a little bit of levity. There's no Dogman. There's no dog women. That's why the Dogmen are so angry. So
maybe that's why the Dogman's at peace.
Yes.
Because he doesn't have the dog woman nagging him. Stephanie Light, thank you. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. Oh, goodness. James Berger, cannot wait to see this. He's talking about the dog woman teats.
Well, the flock just said, my next life I want to come back as somebody who can sleep in a hammock in the woods and nothing disturbs me. Even if you're not into this stuff, I mean, we've ran into some weird people in the woods before.
Mm-hmm.
Some weird people. And you're like 10 miles from your vehicle, like on foot. And I don't have enough trust for my fellow man, let alone anything else weird out there to go lay on a hammock to
And I just feel like I'm like a bear.
Yeah.
I'm like a burrito for a bear.
Yeah,
just like hanging in a tree, or whatever, a dog man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've run into some weird people out in the woods, and like I couldn't imagine as a woman just like taking a nap in a hammock peacefully. Knowing what I know about how crazy people are.
Existers revitalization. From what I understand, the females have two breasts from two witnesses, stories floating around. Yeah, I've heard, like I said, I've heard like one or two, but not much. And like I said, I've heard a few more stories of like juveniles. And obviously you never hear all of them. You know what I'm saying? So the amount of avenues, and then you don't know the ones you're hearing if they've just been generated for clicks on YouTube or is it a legit witness account? But I've heard of them. It's just that you don't really seem to. As rare as you heard about Sasquatch, it's that much more rare with Dogman. And I think that pretty much precludes it from being just some mutant wolves running around out there with like a breeding population. So
Dead in Yard Hunt says Terror in the Woods had a female loup-garou in New Orleans. The guy said it had breasts. That was probably just a crackhead in the 7th ward.
Yes. So. 7th ward crackheads.
So that's just the 7th ward crackhead.
Well, these people are dumpster diving dogmen.
What?
Thank you for that dumpster diving dogman.
Thank you, guys. Tracker says there's one picture on YouTube of a dog woman. I'm sorry, there's only 2 nips.
You don't have to apologize to me, man. I'm fine with that. But send me that link to that if you don't mind. So
he wants to see these.
Cowboy 5 rings, $9.99. I appreciate that, man. Hey,
Thank
you know what,
guys?
The dog woman nips.
That's really what put you guys over the edge.
Really got the crowd.
I think you
going
guys
this
are
evening,
like.
So
you just gotta throw a little dogman nip at them.
Know what the people want, man. You gotta know what the people want. So
it's gonna be the weirdest OnlyFans ever.
Cryptid response. What's up, buddy? Maybe the males are the protectors. The females don't interact with humans unless there's no alternative. That might be right. I mean, again, you've got to be open to almost every possibility because we can't prove any one possibility. So I don't know. I mean, or these things are demonic and they're manifesting themselves in ways of what we expect. You go back to that tulpa thing. You know what I'm saying? Maybe people aren't expecting to see a female version of this creature, and that's why we don't see it. Where you hear about that a lot with like Skinwalker Ranch and a lot of the more like out there like UFO theories that this phenomena interacts with you, and it bases itself on what you expect sometimes and what you don't expect. You know what I'm saying? But that there's definitely,
again, that connects back to the trickster element.
Well,
though,
there's definitely something about the observer has an effect on the phenomenon. We know that, like in physics, sometimes by the simple act of observing something can change an activity. You know what I'm saying? So you take that several steps up. Maybe it's the physical act of observing these things. These things are kind of showing us what we expect. It goes back with UFOs. That technology always stayed just right beyond what we're capable of doing. You know what I'm saying? And maybe it's weird too, because it's when the human race was more spiritually inclined, the stuff presented itself to us in a spiritual manner. You know what I'm saying? You know, demons, you know, creatures from enchanted caves, you know, everything like that. And then now that when we're scientifically minded, it presents itself in a scientific creatures from another planet that are here to perform scientific experiments upon us. So there's definitely something where the state of humanity at that particular time
influences how it presents itself.
And that precludes it from being like a purely physical phenomenon, because that rules that out, you know. And again we talk about spiritual phenomenon, physical phenomenon, flesh and blood, blah, 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 blah. Maybe it's something that, again, one of the definitions of alien is not something from somewhere else. It's something that's incomprehensible to us. Maybe it's something that's so incomprehensible that these labels that we're putting onto it don't do any of it justice. And it's something that we can't comprehend enough to even come up with an accurate label.
Whoa, this just spiked 77.9. Wow.
Maybe something that we just can't put a label onto it. We don't understand it enough to even describe it, you know?
Yeah.
So
you can also take it to that foregone conclusion of, if there is no observer in the woods to have the Sasquatch sighting, was there ever a Sasquatch to sight?
Exactly. So
Teresa Wilkins says, okay, now you're going to tell me what Spearfinger is. So Spearfinger is a Native American legend. She is sometimes described as a witch in the woods. I think she's more of an elemental, but she presents sort of as an old woman, an old bent woman. Some of the legend states that her skin is like of a scaly stone, so you can't just kill her with a spear. There's a certain way you have to kill her. But on one of her hands is a long stony finger, and she uses that to extract the livers of her victims, and she prefers the livers of children. And so that's why they tell the children not to go out or stray too far from the village at night. And there's a certain time of year when Spearfinger comes around, and that's when the Braves are out hunting. And the Braves will be out hunting, and they'll burn to kind of drive the game. And what nuts is it? What's the walnuts?
I don't know.
Chestnuts.
I think it's chestnuts.
When the chestnuts are on the ground, this is in the late fall, they'll burn and drive the deer, and the smell of the burning chestnuts is what brings her in. And so she knows that the Braves are out there hunting deer. So she will come in from the smell of the burning chestnuts, and she'll come in, and if anybody strays too far away, she'll come and take them and extract their liver with that stony finger. So in the legend, the titmouse actually comes and tells the people how to kill Spearfinger. You have to drive a spear through her heart, but her heart is not located here. It's actually located in her hand, and the titmouse explains that to the Braves. So they dig a deep pit and lure her over it. She falls into it, and then they finally throw a spear and through her heart and kill her. So that's the legend of Spearfinger, kind of in a nutshell, just off the top of my head. Yeah. But there's still legends that she's still around, that they didn't actually destroy her, that they didn't kill her, and that she still will come around and take people. And actually, the area that is the area for what I've determined from all of my research of the area where Spearfinger most likely would be and most likely would reside is actually the edge of that space is on the edge of where several missing 411 cases have occurred. So even if that seems like a bridge too far, that you have like a Native American elemental, stony skinned, long fingered woods witch taking these people, it's an idea.
Yeah, and it's weird just because if you look at the Cherokee especially will talk about like witches in the woods, and they don't come across like what you would consider a stereotypical witch. They're more like these entities, these creatures. I mean, you would get that in certain parts of European folklore as well when they would talk about witches. When you look at some like very period accurate descriptions of witches, they don't sound like witches. They're not like old crones with like pointed hats. They're hairy or they're scaly. They have like, you know, fangs, claws, everything like that. They sound more like an entity of some sort than just like a human female that knows magic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's another one of those things that you hear about these like Cherokee witches, and they're not what you would consider witches. They're they're monsters basically.
They're monsters basically. It's not a woman conducting like rituals.
Yeah.
Necessarily. Dead in Yarn Hut. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Knowing, you know, the observer effect, exactly. The fact that just the actual act of observing something can have an effect on it. So Kaiju Ninja asks, have we ever had a UAP UFO sighting? We've seen strange lights in the woods.
We've seen strange things in the sky multiple occasions.
Yeah, but they're fewer, but they're more dramatic. We saw something that we still refer to this day as
the burning ghost, the flaming ghost.
The flaming ghost. Yeah, we saw this thing
that was like right here. That was like right here by where we live. It was one of these strangest.
It wasn't
things.
that high in the air, and
no.
it wasn't like a Chinese lantern because it was trailing flames behind. It was like a ball of fire,
slowly
moving,
purposefully. Moving across the sky, and it wasn't that high up. It wasn't even. Was it about 100 feet up?
Yeah, maybe if that. So yeah,
but it was just on fire and slowly just moving in a straight line.
And we watched it go.
It was
literally,
so strange.
Our mailbox is like a ways from our house, and it's down like an old gravel road. And we were walking down to check the mail one night. We realized we hadn't checked the mail during the day, and because our mailbox is so far from our house, we're always worried about people stealing our mail.
Yeah.
So we walked down to check it, and we saw it, and we just watched it, and we're just like, "What the heck?
What is this?" That? Yeah, we stood there and watched it for like 20 minutes.
We've never had a craft sighting or anything like that. We've seen weird lights, but we've never seen like something that we would consider like a craft from somewhere else. And quite honestly, I don't want to. I don't want to at all.
No, I really don't know.
That's like a bridge too far for me. So,
Dead in Yard Hunt is contributing to the Dog Women Bra Fund. We're gonna
every week, man. Every week, people have got a pet fund they want to donate to. The helicopter.
The Hellbent Hollercopter.
The Hellbent Hollercopter.
Is what that was.
Now the 8-cup bra. So.
Yeah. The Contagious Cajun says silence has lost a lot of credibility over the last 3 years, and I find it interesting that the paranormal has become so popular.
I think people have become more open to the idea of the paranormal, either because of physical experiences they themselves have had, or because somebody that they know has had them, or maybe they're just intellectually honest to say there's so many people reporting the same thing. It's got to be something to it. You know,
I also think that maybe like the general chaos going on, and the everybody is in chaos, everything is in chaos. You have so many people that are in such heightened states for extended periods of time. The human psyche is a very, very powerful thing. I think that somehow maybe that might be influencing a thinning of the veil of sorts.
All right, well, let's take it another step. And I'm not saying that I necessarily believe this, but I've heard that people say that what happened during coronavirus, where they shut down all the churches. So with all these churches being shut down for a couple of years, has the effect of that
loss
lack of prayer and ritual.
That's an interesting
Has it had
theory.
A strengthening effect on what we would consider the paranormal?
That's an interesting theory.
So is some of that held in abeyance by
Collective prayer.
collective prayer, or just collective intent at that point.
Yeah.
So
We're hitting all of them tonight, boys.
yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Have you mentioned that before?
What's that?
That theory, or did you just pop with that?
No, I've heard somebody. I didn't come up with that. Somebody has mentioned that in the past. I don't know who
Yeah.
it is, but I actually had somebody who, I'm not going to mention their name here, but we know that is extremely religious, talk about that they thought that the lack of the people's ability to worship maybe had a physical effect on the world.
Yeah, that's pretty
And then, of
interesting.
course, I tied it into, well, if it's having a physical effect, it's probably letting these things that, you know.
Oh, good night, Martin.
Night, Martin. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday and happy Thanksgiving. I keep forgetting that it's Thanksgiving this week because I don't know if we're going to get to do anything for Thanksgiving. We might just be working.
Yeah.
Got to pay for that Hellbent Hollercopter, guys.
Hellbent Hollercopter.
So we will be probably both working on Thanksgiving.
Yes, I have heard of Dear Woman before. I'm not overly familiar with it. We mostly focus on Cherokee, just because by virtue of where we're at.
Yeah.
And then everybody's got a crash course in like Navajo stuff with Skinwalker Ranch getting more popular. But Cherokee and Catawba is what we mostly focus on, just because we operate in that area. But I'm familiar with it, but I just don't know everything there is to know about it.
And if you're looking for a good resource on Cherokee legends and lore, pick up James Mooney's book. It's the most comprehensive compendium of Cherokee legends and lore.
He didn't try to reinvent the wheel. He didn't try to give like an outsider's perspective of it. He just went there and collected the
everything.
vocal traditions and then put them down in partnership with the actual, with the Cherokee who had these traditions at that point.
It's
so he didn't try to get in there and anglicize them or anything like that at all.
It's Cherokee mythology, and I don't know what the full title of it is. You can look it up there, but it's
Sacred Geometry and
no. Sacred formulas.
Sacred formulas. Okay.
Sacred formulas and mythology of the Cherokee. I'm not sure, but it's James Mooney. It's a nice big tome, but it's we use it all the time.
Sacred formulas of the Cherokee.
Sacred formulas of the Cherokee.
And then he does myths of the Cherokee.
Yeah, but the later edition has both together in one. The hardcover is really nice. It is worth the money.
Got a bunch of comedians out here tonight.
We do.
Yes, indeed. I'm not even going to say that word because I don't want to break some YouTube rule. So
a titmouse is a bird, guys. Jesus. This is a science show. Spearfinger Kaiju Ninja says, Spearfinger sounds like an awesome horror movie idea. Yeah, I think there was like a low budget one that somebody did on that, but I have a feeling when we do I know that Mountain Monsters did a Spearfinger thing, so we've been kind of holding off doing that because it
was kind of associated with
it has that association, but the way we're doing it is of course different. It's us. But I'm that investigation is going to be quite an undertaking. It's going to be crazy though.
Richard Tower, I have a theory about lights associated with Sasquatch. If one of these things ever gets the best of me, you better believe I will be one angry ghost and I will haunt that thing relentlessly. So I'm assuming that you mean that the lights that are associated with it are of a spiritual nature from people who have maybe met their ends at the hands of these creatures. That is very novel and unique, and I've never heard anybody talk about that before. That is a cool concept.
That is a cool concept.
And he follows that up with maybe that's what people see now. The lights are a warning beacon from those less fortunate. Again, that's my big thing is that there's so many people involved in this field, and we've all been talking about it for decades. When something like new and novel comes along, that's awesome. You know what I'm saying? So, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but our friend who does Central Florida Bigfoot is a photojournalist.
Mm-hmm.
So he is somebody who he wants photographic evidence of these things. That's what he's after. And he examined the Patterson-Gimlin film from a photographer's standpoint on just not necessarily what these guys were filming, but how they filmed it, the mechanics of it. And it was just such a novel approach that I'm just going, you hear about people talking about the film and the exposure rate and this and this and this.
Oh, he took it to the next level.
Yeah, he got the camera, didn't he? Didn't he get a model with his camera? So yeah.
Matt, Central Florida Bigfoot, he's awesome. And his perspective on the whole thing is
it's a novel,
Fascinating.
it's a novel approach, that it's not the same old thing that everybody else has just been sitting around. It's, again, just anything novel like that is just, it's, even if you don't agree with it, even if you think it sounds crazy, if it's something that nobody else has really talked about before, give it a shot. I'm gonna actually post a link to his YouTube channel there.
Mojo Mahojo says, stop talking about dog women, chat. There's some paranormal elements to Dogman. You don't want a possessive boyfriend paying you a visit.
Yeah.
But that dog women thing is really just...
Matthew Delph. Yeah, that was he talks about the thing that Elijah Henderson has about that was one of the reports that we've heard about Dogman pups. There's another one where a guy claims that a Dogman pup came into his tent at night. There's a couple more from around the LBL where people have reported seeing, there's been some roadside crossings. There was a hunter that saw from his tent an adult or a full-sized one with, I think, 2 or 3 smaller ones that went by. But yeah, that's one of the stories that I was thinking of. That Tracker says that he thinks the booms in our boom video came from the sky. Look up. We do look up. People constantly tell us that. We spend a lot of time looking up. It's just that generally we do that. We're stationary and we're looking up. So it's kind of boring to translate over to when we try to do these videos.
We also have a canopy of trees above us.
So that's the other thing too. But it's, we definitely look up, and there's a lot of folklore surrounding those booms. People have been hearing it in that area going back as long as there's been the Native Americans here heard it, and then the European settlers heard it, and then we're hearing it now up there. So
Nighthawk says Spearfinger is elemental.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a stone man that's up there as well. I would butcher the Cherokee version of his name, but there's another creature that's similar but slightly different. But yeah, they definitely come across as elementals.
He says that you can only kill her for 4 seasons. Ha! And I'm assuming nobody's killed her in a while. Sounds like a job for the Hellbent Holler crew.
Damn, so Arnaldo, in Latin America, flying balls of fire are considered to be witches. Fascinating stuff. I didn't know that. So,
Guys, every time we do one of these, I feel like
we hear like cool theories we've never heard before.
Yes, we learn so much.
Yeah. So somebody wants to know about the blue stripe in your hair.
Jessi, you should get her a red stripe to replace the blue stripe. Is there a story behind the blue stripe? No. No. I had it gray for a long time. It's just the blue complements my eye color. And I don't even really like the color blue that much, but my hair looks really good blue. So
Pyromatic.
Very exciting.
I'm going to have a painting made, Dogman playing poker.
Oh, no. Joe's going to need one of those.
I have a tapestry in the house that she gave me of dogs playing poker.
Yeah, Joe is very
into dogs. I'm very into fine art. I'm very into the finer things in life. So
Bryce Edwards says, even though Mountain Monsters is scripted, I still wish they would have finished the story on Spearfinger. It's a really interesting legend. It's a very interesting legend, and it hits all the points. I think it's pretty cool. Hopefully we do it justice when we do it.
Don't tell Joe that plasma orbs may be these entities' natural state. Don't want to see Jessi. I'm completely open to that. I'm completely open to these things may be some sort of like energy, and then they have various forms that they take dependent upon, the situation or the person who's witnessing it or whatever. I'm very open to that. So the Dooster says it was immediately after the Great Revival that the Bell Witch made her appearance.
Oh.
Very interesting. So
interesting. We're just reading through the chat right now.
Yeah, Cryptid Response has a good thing. I know that coronavirus had a huge impact on church membership across the land. Not only were the churches closed in a lot of places, once they opened back up, people never came back.
Yeah, because they were in that like habit of going to church and then they're like, I don't really need to go anymore.
So if you have a Christian viewpoint, those are people who are offering up prayers for the betterment of the world who are no longer offering up those prayers.
Yeah.
If you approach this from like a metaphysical viewpoint, just that energy and that intent is no longer being broadcast out there. So if the world is in a balance somewhat, I guess maybe if like the side of light decreases, then darkness is going to kind of grow to fill that void at this point. You know what I'm saying? So to fill that vacuum.
Take Two Wheels says you guys should visit Track Rock Gap in North Georgia. It's a weird spot. We've been there. We haven't been to Track Rock Gap. That is a very, very weird spot. There's a lot of missing people in that area too. Make sure you guys hit that like button. I gotta remind you, if you have not, please do. We'd really appreciate that. Let's see. I'm going through the chat right now. Speaking of looking up what the flux says, have y'all seen how bright Mars is these days? Yeah, I saw it. I looked at it a couple days ago, and I was like, "Is that a plane?" Mars.
Oh yeah. We saw that the other day, and
Martin's going to bed. Good night, Barton. Happy Thanksgiving to you and Letitia. I know everybody's exhausted. We might not go.
Yeah, we're not going to go super late tonight.
We're not going super late tonight. We've gotten some good stuff in. We got some Dogman nips. We got a lot of good theories.
Stephanie Light, what was the name of the book with the Fae? There's a couple of really good books with the Fae. There's Timothy Renner and Joshua Cutchin did 2 books called Where the Footprints End, which talk about the stranger side of like Sasquatch. It was crazy reading that because it was some stuff that she and I had discussed, Jessi and I discussed and thought about. They do such a great job of presenting it and presenting you with like footnotes showing where they got the information from. But that a lot of like Class B sightings that people associate with Sasquatch, they never see a Sasquatch. And if some of these Class B sightings happened in a, like a home or a small town or anything like that, they would be considered hauntings, as opposed to Sasquatch activity. Strange smells, lithoboly, like rocks being thrown, items disappearing, reappearing, strange screams, stuff like that. That would be considered poltergeist activity. Go back a few hundred years, it would be considered Fae activity. So it's Where the Footprints End. And then Joshua Cutchin has a great book called Thieves in the Night, which goes over the supernatural child abduction phenomenon and draws a lot of great parallels between modern abduction accounts from people who have had abduction, experiences with what they consider aliens, and a lot of the stories of Fae abductions in European, mostly Western European mythology. So those are some really good books to check out. So
Matthew Delph says you need to get a Geiger counter. We always have a spike in radiation every time we have activity.
We have a Geiger counter right here, sir. So yeah, and we have experienced similar stuff. High levels of RF, EMF, Geiger counter hits, a little bit of everything.
Take Two Wheels says, "Hey, I have the most nasty scent for bobcats, coyote, wolf, etc. Want me to send it to you for the next LVL visit?"
Yes.
My P.O. box is below. I have had various animal peas sent to me before, but I have ordered them myself. I've told this story before our last LBL trip where we did the scent experiment. Joe ordered that wolf lore, and he was tracking it. And of course, he sends me the best text message ever. "My wolf piss is at the P.O. box. Go get it." Up,
so yeah.
So I had to go get it. Just make sure you seal it really well because we want to be able to keep our P.O. box. We don't want to get banned from the post office because our various wild animal scents has escaped. So make sure if you do send us something like that, it is well sealed.
79 wants to know if you have any cryptid tattoos. She actually has a tattoo of people would say that it's not a cryptid, but of a Wendigo.
I do.
That Timothy Renner, who wrote the books that we just spoke about. Timothy Renner is like we're a big fan of his. Timothy Renner is somebody who
I have a big Wendigo. You can see it.
His approach to the whole topic is just, he's very open-minded about it all. He tries to search for the truth without being like a hardcore debunker. We find a lot of value in reading and listening to Timothy Renner's work. He's also a great artist. So Jessi got that tattoo afterwards. Matthew Delphin also mentioned check tracks for radiation as well. Yeah, we've picked up on that. Our friends Joe and Ron with Wildwood, West Virginia, experienced the exact same thing, finding varying degrees of radiation only around Sasquatch prints and not much higher than like the background radiation of the area they were in. And, you know, we heard a lot of like weird theories when people were trying to kind of like come up with a natural explanation for it, that the Sasquatch came out of caves and that there were radioactive elements in the caves and they tracked it out and stuff like that. But I did not find those to be very satisfying as far as answers go. I think the truth's a lot weirder than that.
Yeah. What the Flock says, these live chats need to become campfire chats, and that it reminds him of sitting around the campfire. Some of the best conversations ever, sitting around a campfire in the woods. Yeah, that would be. We thought about doing that. That's not so much of a controlled environment as this is, but we could do something like that, because we did do that live investigation on Devil's Night. We pulled it off. We can.
I've actually got a setup. I've tested it. We can hook I have portable power sources like a Jackery and a few others. We could hook pretty much everything up here as long as we got cell signal. We could use the phone as a hotspot. We could even do it night vision. The only thing is you're going to have that Sony night vision symbol right in the very middle of it. You can't get that off the screen. So we'd have that. People would have to kind of just accept it. But we could even have one of these conversations in the woods at night with night vision with no like light other than our computer screens going on. So these cryptids, how about these cryptids having higher levels of consciousness, turning into orbs, such as the Merkaba thing? I'm not familiar with the Merkaba.
I'm not either.
I think that's something to do with sacred geometry. But I don't know anything enough about that to really speak, to be honest with you. I think that definitely there might be something to the effect that there are, I don't know if you want to say ascended, elevated, higher levels of consciousness or whatever. These things if you look at like the missing 411 stuff, again, everything's just so like intertwined. They talk about how a lot of this happens and then there's weird weather right afterwards. And I'm always like, did something cause the weather? Or is something so in tune with everything, it knew the weather was going to go poorly? And that factored into its decision. Yeah, it factored into its decision to take that person. In which case, that means that they're operating on a level that we're not. You know what I'm saying? Where's the body? Where's the bones? If these things are operating on a level that we're not, maybe they're so far ahead of us in certain levels that it's not difficult for them to maintain that 100% success rate that we talk about, as far as like not being discovered to the point where we would consider like official discovery. So
Ghost Dog says, guys, what is your opinion of missing 411 The Hunted? There's a lot of commonalities with that story, the Tom Mezek case, with someone like Martin's story.
There's a lot of commonalities between that.
And that makes me nervous. That there is something going on here. And there's some commonalities between that and what we experienced in North Georgia recently with the metallic sounds.
There's that metallic sound that seems to run through. And again, I've mentioned it on here before. If you go through and look, it's more prevalent than a lot of people give credit for. It's just a lot of times it's not associated with very dramatic cases like Tom Mezek or Martin Groves's. I've heard Bigfoot researchers jump through like hoops to try to explain it. Oh, there was a tornado and it tore a tin roof off and it deposited the tin in the middle of the woods and Bigfoot's shaking it because it's curious, or stuff like that. But there seems to be a preponderance of these like metallic sounds in areas, and you hear everything from like, I heard a submarine hatch clang shut. I heard a car door slam shut. I heard
a dumpster closing,
something like that. But there's just all these like metallic things, and you're just going, what is that, man? I mean, you've heard everything from like a dimensional rift opening, a portal opening, something subterranean literally coming out of a hidden hatch, and that's the sound of it closing. But I mean, there's something to it. So
some lost stuff right there.
Yeah.
Toa says, first time chatting here. You have a really good channel. Hit the like button.
Hey,
thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. We always have a good time here on Mondays it's always something hilarious like, haha, wolf piss, thank you. Stephanie, like,
Yeah, and the reason why and literally that's what it was.
Yeah, if you watch those 3 werewolf experiments videos, it was in the we set up the lore stations. We use wolf lore, which is basically wolf piss. And then we use the Sasquatch pheromone chips, which are basically the
it's great ape and human sexual sense. Yes, that's the best way to do it.
P-funk.
Yes, but when I found that, when we were thinking about trying to do like a scent experiment in the LBL, obviously these things appear to be canine, so we were thinking like, all right, let's use wolf lore. And I found some guys. They're the patriarch of this family who used to be a famous trapper, and he had a proprietary like wolf scent that he used to trap wolves. And then when trapping kind of fell by the wayside, they just stopped making it. And now, after wolves have been reintroduced in certain areas and their populations have exploded and wolf trapping becomes a thing again, they've started making it again. I think it's like his grandkids or whatever. And they just make the stuff in like their house. And like, I called and, got in touch with them and asked about it. And they're like, well, where are you at? I'm like, well, I'm in South Carolina. And they're going, you got wolves out in South Carolina? And I'm going, yeah, I'm thinking about going out west. I'm not going to tell them we're using it for Dogman. Well, what's a Dogman?
Yeah.
So,
hey, open up that market a little bit there.
Contagious Cajun spectrometers might be something useful as well. Yeah, I've looked into those. I couldn't find a field usable one that was going to be that wouldn't break the bank. The ones I was looking at were like $12,000 and everything like that. So,
M says, what is the website for the artist that did your logo? If you want to find his website for us, that's Jonathan Dodd. On Instagram, it's Jonathan Dodd Draws. This is nothing compared to what he does usually. He does like paintings and just cryptid art. It's absolutely amazing.
It's so awesome. It's so good.
So Joe's going to throw that down in the chat. If you want to go check out Jonathan's page, he's a great artist. He sells prints and stuff. It's really cool cryptid art. He's very, very talented.
Dumpster Diving Dogman, The Eighth Tower by John Keel. I actually just got that again to reread it. It has been so long since I've read it, but
that's next for me to read after
Passport to Magonia. Yeah.
Yep. Mark Plyboy Green says, have y'all ever heard of some boogers or Dogman reports of banshees being seen in the same area?
We've got a personal anecdote that goes along with that, because of the one area that we're in all the time that we've kind of taken a step back from. We heard what could be described as like a banshee wail that night. That's back when we had like a little crappy camcorder that we were using. And I think that's pretty much all we had to document with.
And we didn't have our hard and fast rule of
always be like recording.
Always be recording.
But we had actually came out of the woods back to our our campsite. And
I was about to say, I wish we had a campground.
We had a campground. That'd be awesome. Take showers. But came back to our campsite and we were actually cooking hot dogs and we were changing batteries out. And we heard this. We thought it was a siren at first. And we're looking at each other because these are just old like logging roads. I mean, you can get a vehicle through them, but we're going, why would there be an ambulance up here? Because it sounded like a siren. And then it just started to riot because it was just kind of the sound was like rising and then falling. And then it was just mournful. It sounded sad. We didn't even it didn't sound aggressive. It just sounded sad. Mm-hmm. Just this like wailing noise.
And it just went on longer than any other human with such power.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
It was insane. Oh, following up to the metallic sound, we actually have the man himself here, Martin Groves. The metallic sound and the empowering of the ground around me was incredible. And I'm learning so much from so many other witnesses that have experienced the same.
And what's weird is that when we first started talking to Martin, I can't swear to it, but I don't think Martin realized. Yeah, I can't swear to it. Martin was unaware of the fact that Tom Mezek had something similar to him. And it was like the first couple times you saw Martin get interviewed, nobody really focused on that sound. And I'm going, you guys don't understand. That sound is like pivotal to this. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it ties in with another case that involved somebody going missing. Because again, it's just from the fact that if it had been anybody else out there other than Martin, more than likely it would have been another Tom Messick case.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the fact that tied in with Tom Messick so much, I don't think a lot of people realized. And when you get down to it, that really gives the case a lot of credence, because it's not a stereotypical Dogman case. Oh, I saw it and it was doing this, and it looked like it with all the little tropes, the Dogman tropes. It grinned at me and I could just feel the evil coming off, and da 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 da. Martin just had some weird thing, other things that are in there too, about like what that thing had in its hand. You know, there's a lot of stuff on Martin's that I think that it's Martin's case is like probably one of the most pivotal cases.
I mean, that indicates the use of a tool. I mean, he didn't think it was a tool. He thought it was possibly remains of something. So yeah.
So anyway,
but it was the remains of something. But could it use it
as a tool? Possibly. That's the thing. Or was it doing it to terrify him? Or was it doing? There's just a lot of. Let's talk about the distance between,
or a tool or a weapon. You know, that's something to take it another step ahead.
I'm going in a totally different direction than that, but we'll discuss it sometime. But yeah, we haven't really talked about it. But I'll have to. It involves the distance between the bow hunter that went missing and Martin's camp. And did this thing go all the way through the woods that far, carrying something in its hand, or does the sound tie in with its arrival there?
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. So nobody's really talked about it. I haven't even really talked about it to you about it before, but to me, it kind of precludes it from being something that just strictly terrestrial, that just ran through the woods.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'll go and say it right now, that kind of precludes that. This thing didn't go through the woods just carrying something like that. That thing went physically a very short distance itself, even though it traversed a greater distance, and it's all tied into that sound. So there you go. Heard it here first.
I don't want this.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So, but Kaiju Ninja, what are your thoughts on wood knocks? We actually heard what I don't think they're wood knocks, because think of like the traditional, the stereotypical Bigfoot hunters. They take bats out there. They take their own sticks out there to bang on trees. Why? Because generally when you find a branch on the ground or even break one down, it's not going to give that sound that you hear. So they have to bring like an actual baseball bat in to replicate that sound.
They bring wood to the woods.
They bring wood to the woods. Now, what we also heard, it almost sounded more hollow, like rocks clacking together. I don't think it's wood. We'll even call them tree knocks sometimes, just because that's the colloquial kind of term for it. But I don't think it's wood. I don't think it's wood on wood. I think it's something else. I think it's either a sound that they're generating, much like those clicks that we heard, but singular and louder.
Or different materials, but
different materials being used. Yep.
And sound in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Tao L says, I'm impressed with that pic you got of that Dogman from your thermal camera. You can completely make out the head, ears, and snout.
Yeah, it's
we actually snapped two.
Two, and you can see it move.
You can see it move between the two.
You see an eye appear in one that's not in the other. So either it moved its head. I think it blinked. I think it closed its eyes because it was afraid it was going to get hit with visible light and there'd be some eye shine. I think and again, I'm obviously making some leaps here. But that's just what I think. So, Pyromedic, what do you think about the loud, metallic, angelistic sounds that have been recorded around the world that appear to be coming from the sky? Maybe related, but shorter. We've talked about that before. The sky sounds, the sky noises, the sky trumpets, all that stuff that you heard. That was like everywhere for a while. And I know it got kind of like trendy to fake some of those.
Yeah, because it became like a viral.
The first ones weren't faked, and some of the other ones weren't faked either. And I think it definitely ties in with some of this stuff. I think it definitely. I don't think I could flesh it out enough to talk about it right now. But if so, let's do this. If the smaller noises maybe herald the arrival or accompany the arrival of smaller groups of creatures like Martin experienced,
Mm-hmm.
what did the larger, more numerous sounds accompany? And has there been an uptick in global activity after those sky trumpets were heard and then kind of faded away?
Like a legion.
Like a legion, yeah. And there's a lot of mythologies that talk about sounds in the sky preceding
The arrival.
and the subsequent end of the world. So
Super.
dark stuff, man. So
Luis Bartolo, thank you
Yeah.
very much. Would you guys ever come down to Florida and try to track the skunk ape? There's a lot of sightings all around Florida and some Dogman encounters as well. You guys are the best, by the way. Thank you very much. We have talked about going to Florida. Right now we're focusing on the Southern Appalachian region, but eventually we might make our way to the old swamparinos of
Central Florida Bigfoot that we've talked about before. One of the other things he does that we're impressed by is he does a lot of stuff via kayak.
Yeah, he kayaks.
He goes into areas that you can't hike in. He goes in and explores other areas, specifically looking for these things.
Yeah.
It's real, again, a novel approach, man. I don't care what your end result is. If you're taking a novel approach, that's just fascinating to me. Cryptid response, good night. He's going to jump off here and try to do some deer watching in the morning. He can't hunt anymore because he's
Are you tagged out?
He's ran out of freezer room. So yeah.
Is he tagged out? Is he ran out of freezer room?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, he got a bunch of handsome ones.
Yep.
Matthew Delve says, first time listening to your live. We're on the same page. I have to keep up with you guys and talk sometimes. Yeah, that'd be cool. We are we just kind of take our own approach to things and just kind of feel it out and follow the evidence where it goes and kind of explore different ideas and explore different theories. Dead End Yard Haunt says, where can I see the thermal Dogman pic? We have it in
the first LBL video that we did.
The first two LBL videos we did that were from the summer.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we captured the image. You can watch those, or I have it, I think, at the beginning of the second werewolf experiments when I'm kind of doing the exposition talking about the experiment we were doing. So I think it's at the beginning of the second werewolf experiments video.
Mark Plowboy Green, I quit doing wood knocks a long time ago. I believe they've gotten used to people using that, just like making calls. Yeah, we don't like how Jessi will whistle sometimes just because there's that old trope about whistling in the woods. You're not supposed to do it because it draws things in.
So I do it.
So we're trying to draw things in. But
again, I don't think you need to be doing howls or whoops or calls or anything like that because you don't speak the language and they know you don't speak the language. So they know it's a human. They don't think it's some other Sasquatch or whatever out there communicating with them because you're not communicating with your dog and barks. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't look at your dog and go, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah. And then he goes, oh, okay. And then he knows what the heck you're saying. It's just nonsense.
Yeah.
You don't speak the language.
With the flock, I believe the thought is that Bigfoot are using more massive branches. Now, yeah, that I could believe. And we've seen some pretty big branches now and stuff like that. And you know what? You're exactly right. That might cause a much more percussive sound that we just can't replicate. Some of them do sound like rocks, though. I mean, those ones that we heard sounded like rock clacking. So
my only attempt at wood knocking was hilarious. I was like, I'm gonna try it. Screw it. I grabbed a limb and it just disintegrated upon impact. So that was over.
What the flock? Thank you, sir. We appreciate
Thank you,
that.
What the flock.
We appreciate your participation tonight.
James Barker, Jessi and Joe, knife check. Knife check. Oh, we have a cold steel frenzy. I have a ProTech Godson black on black on black. That is a USA made auto. There you go.
What the flock has got, I believe anything is possible until we actually witness a Bigfoot making the sound. Who really knows? That goes in with a lot of Class B encounter stuff we talked about. Is Bigfoot throwing the rocks that are coming near you? I mean, is Bigfoot making the screams? I mean, if you see a Bigfoot screaming and you hear the scream, then obviously that's it. But if you just hear a scream and you never see a Bigfoot, people are so predisposed to thinking that anything strange in the woods is Sasquatch.
Yeah.
When our ancestors knew that there was a variety of things out there that would cause a variety of different stuff. Some of them were similar to one another. Some of them were very dissimilar to one another. But yeah, I think that's actually it. I mean, that's like some of the glyphs and like the weird sigils that we find. I mean, that could be people out there doing stuff. We actually think some of them it's more occult activity than it is like Sasquatch activity out there. So. Luis Bartolo, have you guys ever interviewed people in the Appalachians about their encounters with Bigfoot or Dogman? Yeah, we've got several interesting stories. Like I said, we're talking about maybe doing some of those stories if we can get permission to share them. But you know, it's weird. It's like some of the most interesting ones are ones that we can't get any more information on.
Yeah.
There's a survival store up near where her family's from in North Carolina. Like they sell like freeze-dried food and, you know, just hand crank flashlights, stuff like that. And we went in there and talking to the lady that owns the place, and we tell her what we do. And she's telling us about some old man up there who's barely like civilized himself. And he does a survival school up in the mountains. Well, he stopped doing the survival school because of the things that were in the mountains. And he didn't feel comfortable taking people up there because he thought he was going to start losing people up in the mountains from these things. And we have heard variously that there were Sasquatch, we've heard that they were like hyena-like. We've heard like different stuff, but he stopped doing this and he was going to try to eradicate these things up the mountains. Yeah. Basically take his mountain back from these things. And we're like, could you please like have this guy get in touch with us? We've never heard anything from him.
Here's my card.
Yeah, please. And so to me, that's always one of the most compelling, weirdest stories we've ever heard. And I'll never know how it ends. I've got
and she was so casual with how she told
just so
us
casual
that.
about it. She was just like, yeah, he's going to take it. He's going to try thinking about how to take care of these things. And I'm like, take it. So this old man survival instructor is going to go to war in the mountains with these things, man. I mean, and it's not somebody trying to like tell us this on a YouTube channel. No. It's just some lady that owns a survival store telling us this, just like she's talking about the weather, you know? Yeah. So I would love, so a lot of the stories we get little hints of them and we never hear anything else back about it. So
Martin Groves following up on that. So true. I had zero idea about Tom's story. And when I heard the story, it scared me deeply, truly frightened me when I learned about Tom.
And I'm going to take credit for that, damn it. Because quite honestly, Martin Groves' story
I made that connection.
Is because it's so fascinating. Or at least I think somebody else may have come up with it. So I'm being facetious right now, but it's just that there were so many smaller elements to it, and you get, because the story's so dramatic, you get caught up in like the overall just story and just how crazy it is. But there's a lot of like details in there that follow a pattern that's not really part of the common like mythos. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it lends so much credibility to an already extremely credible story. So
dumpster diving Dogman's toss is $5. Joe's shoulders are dropping to the side. Wake him up.
I'm popping my shoulder, man. This chair's getting a little.
Yeah. Next time when we rebuild our next studio space, we're gonna get chairs with backs on them.
Yeah. So I heard rock clacking. Yeah, and it's got a subtly different sound to it. And again, I think it's rock clacking. I think some of them maybe wood knocks. It might be something else entirely different. That's that percussive noise that we heard, that we caught on audio, and then we heard with our own two ears that you hear it. I don't know what that was. It sounds biological and mechanical at the same time. And that opens up a whole kettle of fish that I don't know if we're ready to tackle right now. So. Yeah.
Jones said Farm says, whenever hubby and I are in Smoky Mountains, we have to stop at the Smoky Mountain Knife Works. He loves knives. We stop there every time I go through there.
Yeah, and, a lot of times I can't carry a sheath knife when we're out because of the pack, like the belt of the backpack will get in the way of it. I can carry it a drop leg, but it's just clumsy. So I'll carry like cold steel knives just because I know they got kind of a bad rap now, but the lock on them is like so indestructible. I've got a clip point, like knife of a similar size of this, and if you choke all the way back down, you can like literally clear brush with it. This is not an outdoor knife. This is just for self-defense that
I bought this at Smoky Mountain Knife Works.
Yeah, you did buy that at Smoky Mountain Knife Works.
Yes,
right.
on when we were going to Crypticon last year.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
I think so. Yeah,
I believe it was. Yes, because when we went to LBL, I get a knife every time we go on a trip up there. our last LBL trip was that Condor
Mhm.
mini Hudson Bay fixed blade knife, which is really cool. But yeah, I think this was my last Crypticon trip.
I need to put this away. I'm going to cut myself.
I know. I'm just like, I'm messing with mine too.
Clan SCC, do you believe carrying equipment is the right approach? Perhaps carrying the most standard camera while being hidden in the bushes, one with nature, is the only way to get over on one of these things. Well, I mean, if somebody wanted to take that approach, I would encourage them to do it.
Yeah, give it
I
a
go
try.
back to that there are hundreds of thousands of game cams spread out all over the country that are put up with varying degrees of skill and varying degrees of camouflage and are of varying qualities, and none of them, there's been a few things on there, but it seems like if that was going to get that smoking gun, we would have got it by now.
Yeah.
We have put up game cams before. We take the approach that we're not sneaking up on anything out there. I don't care what you think about doing, how well you camouflage yourself and try to decent yourself. If these things are at the level that everybody seems to think that they are, they're going to smell your breath, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've even looked into scent killing gum and everything like that. I just think that these things know when we're out there. And I think that we kind of bank upon making them curious. I mean, they show themselves when they want to. And I don't know why they want to sometimes, but it seems like they do want to. Other times we've just gotten a feeling that something's there and we never see anything.
Yeah.
Other times we've been hit blindsided out of like left field with stuff. So, I mean, if somebody wants to take that approach, yeah, we've tried to set up stationary before with different types of equipment because it's easier to do that than trudging through the woods at night trying to juggle all this stuff because there's just two of us. And it would be so much easier to do that. It would be easier to have a variety of instrumentation. It would be easier to have a variety of cameras. It would be easier to film it and share it with you guys. We just rarely have anything happen like that.
It seems like we have more activity occur and more things happen to us
when we're busting through the brush.
When we're going through the brush, we're moving. When our investigation is very kinetic, it seems like we are. I don't know if it's like we're stirring something up, or if it's just interacting with us because we're interacting with the environment more. But we do seem to have more activity when we're moving around.
Kaiju Ninja 1985. I don't mean to creep Jessi out, but do you think that Bigfoot and Dogman are curious, attracted to women, and maybe there's a better chance of an encounter with a woman being out there?
I do.
I can't speak to all women because that's not something I have really done with a lot of women going out on like a Bigfoot or Dogman hunt. But I can tell you that she and I can go into an area that has activity, and if I'm with her, I may or may not experience anything. If I go to that same area by myself, I don't have anything happen. And that has been the rule since we have been doing this as Hellbent Holler, is that I have not had, when we separate in that one video and I leave her in that clearing, I hike up the mountain, nothing happens with me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, nothing happens with me at all. She's sitting there and those two, what look like disembodied eyes come up behind her shoulder. She gets that flash of light that seems like it's coming out of the ground. It's not a flashlight beam. I don't know what it is. It's just like a field of light that seems to come out of the ground.
It's like a white, almost ethereal light.
Nothing happened to me at all. I'm like,
comes into existence.
I'm going up the mountain by myself and I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. I mean, I'm nervous for her. I'm nervous for myself. I'm out there by myself.
And if I die, you'll starve to death.
Yeah, but I mean, so I do think that there is a something to be said about women being more attractive to some of these things. And it goes back to some of these stories that you hear. Like
they used to take women. They used to take women or children.
They're probably taking women right now. So they're probably taking children right now. But they, but at the same token, I do think that there are, and this is getting completely into the woo side of it, I think there's people who are touched to a certain degree by this sort of stuff. And I used to think it was just certain people were more aware of it, so they noticed what was around them. I'm aware of it as all get out, and it doesn't seem to happen to me that often. I'm not touched by it. I think you are, and I think there's other people out there that are. So
I thought you were going to say I was touched by the tism.
Yeah, well, you are touched by the tism. All right, we're going through here.
Yep. And we're just going to go probably another, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, we'll go about another, if that long even. So, Tool says, have you investigated the Kettle Moraine State Park or Bray Road? No, I would like to get up there eventually. But a good friend of ours is in Michigan who has an interest in this stuff. We'd love to get up and see him and kind of do some of that. But most of our part of the thing to do this on is you always have to pick an area that's fairly close by your house, because that way you can get out there constantly. You're not spending a lot of time traveling. The more time you spend traveling, the less time that you have to spend out there.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, we always encourage people that are wanting to do this to focus on an area that's fairly close by, if you can. We'd still like to go out on like a weird sightseeing trip and everything like that. It's just that we're like everybody else, we're limited and we don't have sponsors doing this, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, yet, but get some thermal company sponsoring us or something like that. So.
Luis Bartolo says, have you guys ever been to the Daniel Boone National Forest? I've heard it is infested with Dogman. I believe someone said that they saw a soldier variant Dogman there. Massive head and muscular.
We have not. Our Kentucky stuff has been basically
LBL
at this point. If and when we run, we'll probably venture to Daniel Boone eventually. You know what I'm saying? So we might even do it on this next trip out there.
Mm-hmm. Jay Myers, your audio went out. I don't know if anybody else had audio problems or if it was just you. Let's see.
Real quick, Richard Tower. Clan SAC might have been analog cameras. They might be good. And we actually talked about that last week, actually talking about how people have had better luck with analog stuff, older tech, than the newer tech.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of limited into digital recorders as opposed to like reel-to-reel recorders, just because of the way we use them. We might eventually get a reel-to-reel and use it stationary.
Yeah, we were talking about the Sierra sounds and capturing those and how that has not been replicated in any sort of way. Or the Patterson Gimlin film. You know, both of those are very pivotal pieces of Sasquatch evidence and how they haven't been replicated at this point.
Matt Keenan, how are you, sir? Are they stealing women for an easy meal or to mate with them? You hear both stories. You hear, it seems like when they're taking. All right, well, I have to back up. The way I interpreted a lot of these stories was they would take women to mate with them, and then this weird fascination they seem to have with children. I think that's a predatory instinct.
Okay.
That's what I think. Obviously, there's a couple of examples of mostly Native American women who have returned after being abducted, and they were taken for the purposes of mating with, basically, according to those. But that's a very small sample size of people that came back. I think regardless of what original purpose you're taken for, I think the predatory aspect comes into play with it. So Kaiju Ninja got a lot of good questions. Do you think Dogman has a language? I don't know. There are reports of them speaking, usually singular words. There's that Linda Godfrey one we talk about where it says Gadara. But as far as a language goes, I don't know.
Then a grunting. There's historically there's been a grunting language that sort of is nonsensical, I guess, to foreign ears. But I don't know. Oh, Martin Groves is cutting out. He says, Happy
Thanksgiving, buddy.
Jessi and Joe and everyone. Much love for y'all. God's protection and Godspeed. Happy Thanksgiving, Martin Groves.
But I think we're going to wrap it up here in a minute. If anybody's got anything else.
If you guys got anything, speak now or forever hold your peace. I got to go make dinner because Joe is not going to survive off of bologna sandwiches and 4 feet of snow. So I'm going to go make some dinner.
So what we've got coming up, we are going to have a video coming out of our follow-up to that area where we got the weird audio at. I think I'm going to, if there's any interest in it, I know this isn't going to appeal to everybody, but I'm thinking about releasing just the whole audio. And it's like an hour and a half, something like that.
The raw audio?
The raw audio for people to look at if you want to. And you're going to hear us placing the recorder, walking on for a few minutes, leaving, and then coming back later on.
Yeah.
After all those noises happened, and then like picking the recorder back up. But I'm thinking about putting the raw audio out.
We can do that.
Just because a few people seemed like they were really good at sleuthing it. We're going to have a video up about our return to that area. I don't know if anything that happened to us the other night is really worth sharing on video?
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean,
Probably not. It was a cool spot.
we might do a short on it or something like that, just because it was a cool,
It was a beautiful place.
beautiful place.
We
But
had
nothing really
some-
weird happened. To the extent, I mean, it's nothing definitive.
Comparatively speaking.
Yeah, nothing definitive. So
Yeah.
we do not have snow in our area, J. Myers.
No.
So
Thank goodness.
hey, I want to. This is really God, such good stuff. Do you think Dogman is a demon materializing in our realm? The reason I ask is that one photo of a Dogman face behind the man at the family event. Yes, that is something that is always bandied about, and people call it demonic. They say it's a demon. It's a demon manifesting. The guy was struggling with a lot of addiction issues and everything like that. He was struggling with depression, and people say it was a demon materializing behind him. But the damn thing looks like an upright dog. You know what I'm saying? It's exactly what it looks like. And you see it. It's talked about on these some of these paranormal caught on film shows and stuff like that. And if you're not familiar with it, I'll see if we can put a link up to it or something. But no, it's exactly right, and that's something that ties into. I think that there might be a couple of different things feeding into what we consider Dogman. There might be some things that are basically more or less extremely physically gifted, but physical. There might be others that are, for lack of a better term, purely spiritual. And there might be some that are like a weird hybrid blend. But yeah, to that one, that's obviously not an upright mutant wolf that broke into this dude's house and photobombed him. You know what I'm saying? It's something that was materializing out of there. That's
I like your outlandish explanations, like alternative explanations.
Actually, here, hold on. Let me pull
Joe's
up.
Gonna find a link to that and hopefully throw that into the chat. Other than that, guys.
Yeah, you kind of entertain the folks for a second. So, demon.
So other than that, make sure you guys hit that like button before you leave. We're going to leave the chat rolling for a little bit like we always do. I know everybody likes to say goodbye to each other. This was a fun show. Really, really want to thank everybody that participates in these every week and all these people who came in for the first time this week. I hope you had a great time. You guys teach us something every week. Every week somebody comes up with a new theory or something cool or sends us on a new rabbit hole to go down, and we really, really appreciate that. You guys are the best. Hellbenders are by far the choice. We've got that. We're going to have a shorter video coming out that's sort of a follow-up to the last field investigation video we did. In addition to that, we've got a dark dive in the works. I think we will be recording that on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be recording that on Friday. I know we keep promising these things. We work a ton.
J. Myers, on your list, which would you like to find, Dogman or Bigfoot? When we got that thermal image of what looks like a Dogman at the LBL, I was very open about saying I wish we had been able to get a similar thermal image of a Sasquatch, just because we weren't really open to the idea of Dogman at that time.
Yeah.
And we realized that we were going to
catch. And it's easier to explain a Sasquatch.
Yeah, and we realized that we were going to get a lot of flack, and that there was a large portion of the population out there that would have accepted a possible thermal image of a Sasquatch that would just immediately turn on us for saying we've got what we think is an upright dog-like creature on thermal here. So that's what I used to say. At this point, I find the concept of Dogman more intriguing.
Yeah.
Definitely more intriguing. And it ties in a lot with the Skinwalker Ranch stuff. It seems like that.
It seems like it ties in more with the UAP stuff.
More with the UAP stuff. And it seems like we're just getting the tip of the iceberg about what's going on over there.
And it's so weird.
And there's just not a lot of people doing serious research into Dogman. I mean, there's some great people compiling stories, and there's a few people out doing like boots on the ground type stuff. I hate that phrase now, but to me, yeah, at this point, Dogman with all the associated dangers, I would much rather do that just because I find it more personally intriguing at this point. So,
yeah. All right, James Barker, you get cicada noises. Gird your loins. There.
All right, so I think we're done, folks.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna let this chat roll so you guys can say goodbye.
We'll let it roll for a while. Say goodbye to everybody. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yep. Thank you guys so much.
Those of you who contributed to the channel, we never asked for that. Thank you. It will be put to good use. It's I'm kind of in a holding pattern right now. I don't know how we're gonna investigate that area with the strange noises yet, but
We did go back.
We did go back, but
we weren't there very long. So it's going to be kind of a short video because we do find something really freaky while we're there that is unsettling, I'd say. So
we're going to give it a shot. But anyway, thank you all.
Thank you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. God bless. And
look for a new Dark Dive podcast coming out soon. It's overdue. And
y'all be safe out there. Be careful. As always, you want to get in touch with us, follow that little ticker down there. We got our information down there. Make sure you follow me at Hellbent Jessi on Instagram. Hit that like button. Make sure you're still subscribed because we're bad people and we lost subscribers. And tell your friends about Hellbent Holler. Send them our way if you think they'd be interested in our content and interested in the conversations we have.
Yeah, we've got to beat this algorithm somehow, man.
We've got to, you know what? Through sheer will, be the change and the share that you want to see in the world. Share our stuff. That helps us so much. We really appreciate you guys doing that for us. Tell your friends about us. And stay tuned for more dark dives. Stay tuned for more field investigations. And of course, join us next Monday for another Hellbent Holler live. Until then, we love you. Be safe and be careful out there.